Hello and a very good morning. Welcome to Shop on TV. I'm Hayley Green.
And I'm Sean Crawley.
And together we've got a show that I think you'll think, oh gosh, thank goodness I switched on the TV. I didn't realise that, because if you haven't written a legally binding will, did you know there's been a will that's been written for you by the government? And honestly, you don't want that to fall into place, because it's not going to be what you want to happen.
We're going to be talking about wills. We're working directly with Simpler Law, who are experts in the field when it comes to writing a will. But not only wills, we'll also be talking about lasting powers of attorney. We've secured some fabulous offers for you, but they are time limited. Just 3 working days for you to get and take advantage of the offers that we're talking about. So whether it's a will, a lasting power of attorney, or whether you want to get the 2 of them, and as we go through the show, you'll see how important it is to have both. So let's show you those offers straight away.
Yeah, because all you've got to do tonight is actually secure these prices. You don't need any information at all. Just get in contact and you can secure the deals that we've got on your screen, which are, oh my goodness, an absolute favourite deal with the extra 20% off. That's not always available, but we've been lucky enough to have that for the last couple of shows. But how long will it last? Well, don't risk it, because you have got an incredible price that should be £249 for your will. It would normally be £124, but with that extra 20% off, £99, so under £100. And the other great thing is, if you secure those deals tonight, you can split that cost to 4 payments. So all you're actually spending is the 4 payments split to £24.75. And if you think about that cost, what do you spend on coffee a month? What do you spend on coffee a week? It's such a little cost to make sure what you've worked so hard for, it actually goes to the loved ones that you want it to go to, because that government will you do not want to fall in place. You've then got that lasting power of attorney, and lasting power of attorney, you have got an absolutely incredible deal there, massive saving on everything tonight.
Yeah, if you want to go for the lasting power of attorney, the suggested retail price there of £349 comes down to £239 on the offer price, but we've got that extra 20% off, remember, so £189 is your price there. And if you do split the cost, £47.25 on your first of 4 payments. Biggest saving of all, though, is if you go for both the will and lasting power of attorney. Should be almost £600. Well, it comes down to £315, and then with the extra 20% off, £249. Once again, you've got the opportunity of 4 interest-free payments, £62.25 on your first of 4 interest-free payments.
And what we would say, though you have got 3 working days to get this deal, is to do it right now. All you're doing tonight is securing the prices, but if you are one of the first 250 clients, and these books always disappear very quickly, you will get a free book, and it is a brilliant book, What My Family Should Know. It's worth £25. You'll get that complimentary, and that is a book where you write down all your vital information that people would be hunting for when you do pass, and things you wouldn't perhaps even think about, like your pass codes for your phone, for your iPad, where there could be really important emails or actually really sentimental photographs that you want to get to. So it's a really great book to get, and it will be only the first 250 people. So that's why get in contact right now tonight. You don't need any information, just the fact that you do want to actually secure those prices and get that will done, get the lasting power of attorney done. Really easy to get in contact, either via the website, simplerlaw.co.uk/shop on TV.
You can call the call centre. The team are there ready and waiting to take your calls right through till 3 a.m. 0333 600 2600 is the phone number. And remember, you don't need any documentation, you don't need anything with you. This is just securing the offers that we've talked about. But the easiest way, the simplest way, is to just text the word will, WILL, to 66777, and then you've secured those offers that we've been talking about.
Yeah, you can go via our website as well, but don't go anywhere. Do stay with us, because we have got Simpler Law with us, and I want you to understand how vital it is that you do have that will in place, a legally binding will. You know, when you hear someone that's saying, oh, a long-distant relative in Australia got all their money and they wanted to leave it to friends and neighbours, but they didn't write a will. Stay with us and you'll understand why that actually happens. If you want to, what you've worked so hard for, to go to the people you want it to go to, you do need to have a legally binding will.
And remember, we will be going more into detail about lasting power of attorney. Maybe you've heard of that term, but you're not quite sure exactly what it means. Well, we'll explain that as we go through the show for you. So just get in touch directly with simplerlaw.co.uk/shop on TV, and you'll get all of those exclusive offers we've been talking about you. We're going to meet the team in just a couple of moments, so don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this. See you in a minute.
Hello and a very good morning. Welcome to Shop on TV. I'm Hayley Green.
And I'm Sean Crawley.
And I think we've got a show for you that you'll think, thank goodness I switched on, I didn't realise. Because if you've been perhaps thinking about writing a will, perhaps it's something you just keep putting off, perhaps you think it's OK, I've told all the family what I want to happen. Sadly, if you haven't written a legally binding will, did you know you have got a will? And it's the government will. The government has written a will that will fall into place, and sadly, it won't be what you want to happen with what you've worked so hard for all your life.
It won't follow your wishes, that's the thing. With a legally binding will, you can write exactly what you want to happen.
Well, for us, we've been together, now I keep forgetting, I think it's 35 years. 35 years it is. However, we're not married. So if we didn't have a will, if one of us passed, even though we've been together so long, and we know, our family knows what mine is Sean's and what Sean's is mine, that wouldn't happen at all.
Yeah.
But it's even more complicated than that. If you're married, it's not that easy. If you're married with children from different relationships, it gets really complicated. So please stay with us. I really want you to understand, because we didn't realise that if you haven't got that legally binding will, there's something that falls into place which will not be what you want to happen.
We are working directly with Simpler Law this evening, or this morning, however you want to look at it, and we will meet the team very, very shortly. But it's not just about wills. We're also going to be talking about lasting power of attorney.
Which is just as important.
And that might be something that people at home have heard of, but they're not quite sure what it means. Well, we'll explain why it's so important and the offers that we've got for you, because we've got offers on both wills and lasting power of attorney. So let's run you through those straight away, and then we'll tell you exactly how easy it is to get in touch. So first of all, if you want to go for the family estate and will, it might be the fact that the price has been putting you off.
Yeah.
Well, the prices are fabulous that we've got for you. A suggested usual price of £249. Even at that price, it'd be great. But the offer price was supposed to be £124. Well, we've got an extra 20% discount, which brings it down to less than £100. £99 or £24.75 if you want to split the cost interest-free. £24.75 on your first of 4 payments.
Which is nothing, is it? When you think about what you spend on coffee, perhaps a week, £24.75 is absolutely nothing. But making sure what you've worked so hard for will go to the people you want it to go to. Now, lasting power of attorney, and this is just as important, and sometimes you find out about lasting power of attorney when it's just sadly too late. So do stay with us to learn more about this. The price is phenomenal. This is how I discovered Simpler Law, because I did my mum's lasting power of attorney. We was really surprised about the deal. At £349 worth every single penny of that. However, our regular price will be £239, but you have got that extra special 20% off only for the next 3 working days. So we do say get in contact right now, otherwise sadly you will forget to do it, because you will get that price from £349 down to £189, so saving £160. You don't want to miss out on that, and of course you can split that cost with 4 payments, £47.25, so making it really affordable when you split that cost.
The best offer of all is the will and lasting power of attorney. That combined offer should be almost £600. The offer price was £315, but remember, again, you're getting that extra 20% off. Time limited, that's why it's important to get in touch right now. £249 that comes down to, and with those 4 interest-free payments, just £62.25 on your first of 4 payments. Also, the first 250 clients to get in touch will also receive a free book. It's worth £25. It's called What My Family Should Know, and basically you record all your information in one place. Things like pensions, bank accounts, things like passwords for your computer and your phone, all the things in one place so you're not hunting around to find it. So first 250 people to get in touch, and that's why we'd urge you to do it right now. We'll get that book that we're talking about. Speaking of getting in touch, this is really simple as well.
It is. You can either go via the website simplerlaw.co.uk/shop on TV to make sure you get our special prices, that extra 20% off. Jump on the phones. They are on the phone lines till 3 a.m. So 0333 600 2600. Or the most popular is just to text the word. I bet your phone is in your hand. Text Will to 66777. Don't have to speak to anybody, but you've secured those prices and you haven't forgotten. Because if you leave it, I know the offer is available for 3 working days. We're a little bit, well, life gets on top of us, doesn't it? And then all of a sudden you'll think, oh, I've missed out on the deal.
That's why we would say do it right now. Don't wait, because taking the first step is always the hardest thing, isn't it? And you've taken that first step. And the other thing to point out is you don't need any documentation. No. You don't need anything with you. It's just about securing those
You just
offers.
need to know you want to do a will, you want to do a lasting power of attorney. And even if you watch the show and you've secured the will price, don't worry. If you decide you want lasting power of attorney as well, they will secure all those prices as long as you get in touch, and I would do it right now.
And the team are with us from Simpler Law, joining us to talk us through how easy it is, how affordable it is, and just how you don't have to worry about it.
How important it is, honestly, and it is. There's nothing to worry about at all. Simpler Law, make it so simple.
So Ian and Georgia join us once again in the studio. Lovely to see you both again.
Morning.
We've got one of the most popular offers back at the moment. We don't know if we'll be able to get this kind of offer again.
The CEO was in a good mood, so let's hope that stays for a while.
Let's hope so, fingers crossed. Now, Ian, straight away, I think we should make it clear to everyone. Everyone needs a will, don't they?
Absolutely. I think, you know, we all work hard for what we've got. There's very few people that turn around and say, I was given this. You know, we've worked hard for what we've got. And if you speak to most people and ask them what they want to see happen after they're no longer here, they want their wealth that they've worked so hard for to pass down to their children, their loved ones, people that they choose. There's a lot of myth and misconception around what happens when you pass away. So people will say, it will be sorted, my son knows about it, or everyone knows what needs to happen, a bit like what you've just said at the start of the show. But unfortunately, people find out only when it's too late that actually it isn't as simple as that. That when you pass away, there's only 2 ways you can pass away. You pass away with your own will, which is why we do these shows, to please think about making your own will, or you pass away without your own will, in which case then the government steps in and makes one for you. And that will's identical for every adult in the UK.
And it's 100 years old, isn't it?
101 this year.
And I'm always like, that's ridiculous. But like you said, there's got to be something. And sadly, if you haven't written your own will, this is what falls into place.
Yeah, and understandably, I don't think most people would know about that, because why would you?
No, we didn't realise.
But unfortunately, it sounds melodramatic, but it can be really problematic at a really difficult time. So having a will doesn't make a bereavement any easier. But having a will means that it's not made worse. And unfortunately, if someone passes away and then the family realise that their estate's going to be distributed not the way that everyone thought it was going to be, because it's got to follow this set of rules that's in place from the government, that's devastating at that point. It's awful.
And we said it wouldn't work for us. We're not married, so people might be sat at home and you might be thinking, well, that's your own fault. You're not married.
It's your own fault, Hayley.
It's our own fault. We should have got married. But however, even if you are married, and if you're married with children from different partners now, which is a lot of families that really see themselves as a complete family, they're not really stepbrothers or stepsisters, that gets very complicated, doesn't it?
The whole piece, what you've just said there, is spot on. Unfortunately, the reason we want people to make their own will, that's the only way that you can, that what you want to happen is going to happen. Because like you said, it's actually far from unusual for us to speak to a family now where perhaps they're on a second marriage, and as you just said, they may have children from previous relationships. The rules of intestacy, or the government will as we know it, and forgive the finger puppets here, but if Mr. and Mrs. are there and they've got a child each from a previous relationship, but they see themselves as a complete family, and why wouldn't they? The rules of intestacy don't. The government will basically picks a bloodline. So the lottery is the first parent that passes away, their child can be disinherited. So if Mr. passes away first, under the rules of intestacy, everything might go to his wife. But when his wife passes away, it only goes down her bloodline to her child. Right. So his child's been basically, dismissed completely. And sometimes we hear people say, well, I'm sure my daughter or my son would look after their stepsister, stepbrother, but that's an incredible amount of pressure to put on them. And no one really knows what's going on in someone's relationship apart from the people in it. And sometimes it's not their child, but it might be their child's partner or husband who's saying, well, why should we give this house away? So if you've got a clear idea of what you want to happen when you're no longer here, then make a will. Because honestly, no one ever regrets putting this type of estate planning in place, but your family definitely might regret that you didn't, because once it's gone wrong, unfortunately, there's no going back.
Yeah.
So you've got a great opportunity tonight, and you can't say that you didn't know that there was a government will waiting for you. So please do something amazing for yourself and your family.
It's like your last gift for your loved ones,
That's
isn't
exactly it, yeah.
Because there could be nothing worse. You know, you put off doing your will and then suddenly, you know, the awful happens. And you're looking, and obviously I don't know what happens, but I like to think Dad is looking down on us and looking down on your family, completely falling to pieces because they know what you wanted. You'd said what you wanted, but that's not happening because you didn't get the will done and the government will has fallen into
Just
place.
because you haven't written down your final wishes. And Georgia, when we talk about what you can do with a will, there are so many different things. It's not just about money, is it?
No, not at all. It's all assets that you may own, ranging from property, which is usually somebody's biggest asset that they have, right down to jewellery. So an engagement ring from your mum, for example, or a wedding ring.
Yeah.
Or even children, pets, because the thing you don't want to think about is two parents being in a terrible accident and leaving children behind, but you can actually say who you'd like to be the guardian of those children and things.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's not a situation that anybody ever wants to think about. It's absolutely awful. But in the instance that something did happen, for example, you know, children are one of the most important things in your life, and you'd want to ensure that they're cared for not only by somebody you trust, but you know, they have the same morals as you, the same values, and they're raised in a way that you would want your children raised.
And then the other thing is, when we talk about inheritance for children, you can specify ages and things, can't you, when they'll actually inherit?
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, 18, it's a very young age to be able to come into a lot of money.
That would be the age they would get everything, really.
Yeah,
I was incredibly mature at 18. If I'd have come into a lot of money at 18, I'd definitely made the right decisions. especially as a young man, because young men are notorious for making good decisions at 18.
I mean, you're still so young, aren't you? Even though you don't think you are.
We don't even talk about anecdotally, do we? We know it for a fact that the vast majority of parents with children who are minors now, when they realise they've got the option, they're like, oof, no, make it 21, make it 23, or they might even stagger the way that the children... And that's a really clever way of managing how the children inherit, so it mitigates that chance.
You could help them get through university, you'd help them buy their first house, whereas they could blow it all at 18.
All this is planning. This is planning. Sometimes when I speak to people and they ask what I do for a living, and I say I'm a will writer, you know, sometimes they'll turn around and go, that must be morbid. And I'm like, no one's passed away when we're speaking to them. It's not a sad thing. And when you go through a consultation with us, you'll be pleasantly surprised, I think, that quite often you have a bit of a laugh because it's about you, it's about your family. And all you're doing is planning for something that hopefully is way off in the future. You know, we all plan for things that we can see. We don't know when we're going to pass away, and that's probably a good thing. But you should plan for it and then forget about it. Because if you don't plan for it, one day, sadly, it will be too late. And that's when all the problems that are created, and it can be devastating. The frustration for us knowing what we can do is in a 15-minute phone call we could have fixed all that, and for less than the cost of a cup of coffee a week kind of thing. So, you know, it's not a difficult thing, it's not a morbid thing. Certainly through these shows we try to make it as affordable as possible, but the one thing we can't do for you is we can't make you send us that text, and we can't make you pick up the phone.
It's that first step
that's the hardest thing.
Bad at, isn't it? We want to do things, but we just keep putting things off, or life just gets in the way. Tomorrow will come, and then all of a sudden another week's gone, and then all of a sudden we're heading towards summer, we're heading towards our, you know, summer holidays, and then before you know it, it'll be Christmas, and you still haven't got that will done. If you actually just get in contact right now and secure those prices, that is that biggest step. And even if you're going away for 3 weeks and you can't actually sit down and talk to your individual person, and there's so many 5-star reviews talking about the team, the people they sit down and talk to. And I know when we were involved with Simple Law doing Mum's Lasting Power of Attorney, it was exactly that. They became friends. You never feel any question is too silly. You feel
you don't need to be afraid of anything.
You don't even need to know the answers before you speak to them, because they know the right questions to get the right answers from you. It's all so simple and so affordable if you secure those prices.
It really
tonight.
is a hand-holding service. Experts in the field, remember, Simpler Law, this is what they do. This is what they specialise in. To get in touch, let's show you how easy it is to get in touch, and then we'll remind you of the offers. So simplerlaw.co.uk/shop on TV. You can call the centre, the call centre, they're there right through till 3 a.m, 0333 600 2600. But the easiest way is just text the word will, WILL, to 66777.
I bet you're like me, you do all the competitions like that. I think I should be winning 700,000 on Friday.
Excellent.
But, you know, they won't call. But the great thing is you've won this competition, because Simpler Law will call you back and sort out a date that's convenient for you to sit down and chat about your will or lasting power of attorney. And we will go into a bit of detail about lasting power of attorney as well, and a lot of detail throughout the whole of the show. But just make sure you secure those prices. And you see on the screen, for your will should be £249. We've got an incredible price. Our regular price normally £124, but you are getting a 20% off deal right now. So please secure these prices, because it is a really excellent deal that we don't always have. 20% off is phenomenal, and of course that brings it down to under £100, and you can split that cost over 4 payments as well.
And remember, you can use the QR code that you see on screen, or if you want to go to our website, shopontv.co.uk, and just scroll down that homepage and you'll see our on-screen partners there. Click on the Simpler Law logo and it'll take you straight through to those exclusive offers that we've got for you. Scroll a little bit further down and you just fill in that form, and again, you've secured the offers. It's so quick, it's so easy, but it's all about taking that first step. We're going to talk about lots of stories and scenarios tonight when it comes to not having a will, because if you don't have your last wishes in place, that government will we talked about falls into place.
Yeah, and even if you're single and you're thinking, oh, I don't need to do a will just yet, I'm not married, I haven't got kids, please do stay with us, because it is vital, even as a single person, that you get that will written, because again, you'll be very surprised. And there's a story that really really knocked me, really, and it could go to someone you really don't want it to go to, perhaps someone that actually left you as a child.
Well, we should get Ian to tell this story we're referring to, because this guy you told us about, I think he was a medical professional, wasn't he?
Yeah, it did stick, this story, because obviously we heard it from his mother and his surviving brother. But yeah, unfortunately, he was a young man, medical professional, as you said, passed away totally unexpectedly. He'd never got married, he'd never had children, and as a consequence, we believe that's why he'd not made a will. We'll never know why he didn't make a will. The backstory, though, was that when he was born, this poor gentleman that passed away, his dad made the decision to leave the family, which is obviously his choice. Again, we don't know the reasons behind that. But his dad wasn't part of his life, no birthday cards, no contact, nothing for decades. And then, of course, sadly, this young man passes away. That's horrible for his mum to deal with. No parent should have to bury the child. So she's got to deal with that. But then, because he hasn't made his own will, he's died intestate, so he's got the government will. And the first question that's asked of the person that's passed away under the government will is, were they married or in a civil partnership? And the answer to this question was no for that gentleman. So it jumps to the next question. It keeps going until it gets to destination. The next question was, did he have children? The answer was no. Actually, the third question in the row was, does he have parents? And of course, the answer was yes. So now his mum's got to track down her ex-husband that she's also not seen for decades and basically say, you're entitled to half of our son's estate. And he was quite successful. That's not really the point. The reaction that most people get is, well, that doesn't seem right, that's not fair, it's not moral. And unfortunately, the law isn't about fairness, and this is why we do these shows, because people will think that everything's going to be okay. And what I've come to learn, because I've been doing this for the best part of 30 years, is it's not really an assumption that they've got, it's more of it's actually a hope.
Yeah.
Is, they want to think that if I passed away yesterday, I hope everything will be okay. The reason we're doing these shows is don't leave it to hope and don't leave it to chance, because you're basically then hoping that the government will takes account of you, and it just won't, because it's a default position. It can't take account of us personally. It's not bespoke. So the only way to make sure that what you want to happen is to make a will. So that's why we do these shows. It's not to be morbid. It's not to say we're all going to pass away. We know there's an inevitability to using a will. But if you give us 15 minutes of your time, it'll be one of the best things that you've ever done. And the interesting thing, at the end of every consultation, not one client, not one of our customers turns around and says, I wish I hadn't done that.
No.
They all say virtually the same thing. I'm glad I got that sorted.
Yeah.
Because you find things out along the way as well.
It's a weight off your shoulders, and like you say, when you're chatting, because it is just a sit-down conversation like we're having tonight, honestly, Simpler Law make it so easy. You will be, me and my mum are the biggest worriers, and you're just so relaxed. They make it so simple. And you discover things that you didn't even realise might happen, or things you didn't realise you could put into a will, and things such as that. And you might be at home thinking, well, it's okay. I've seen I can get one of those templates.
The templates, yeah.
And I can do my own, but
well, you can buy these in the high street, can't you, Georgia?
They're not that easy, are they?
A standard template.
Yeah, you can, and you know, it's one of those where yes, you can buy it from the high street store and you can do it yourself. But I think when you do it yourself, it does present a bit of a risk, because with certain things you can implement in there, they might not always work, and we have seen it in practice where they have actually failed.
It's certain wording and things, isn't it, where you think you've written it right, but actually legally it'll mean something else in a way.
Exactly, and then there is the risk that it can fail, and then it does revert in that instance to the government will if the handwritten one.
So it then goes back to the rules of intestacy, that series of yes/no questions. And it's as simple as this, and it is, like you were just saying, Ian, yes/no's, isn't it? There's no, are you in love? Are you in a civil partnership?
No, we still hear people today say, well, we're common law husband and wife.
Well, that's what we presume.
And that's not a legal position, unfortunately. You're either married or in a civil partnership, or you're not. These are all yes or no situations, and you either are something or you aren't. You know, you either have children or you don't, etc. But if you think about it just for a second, if this government will didn't exist, it would be absolute anarchy if there wasn't.
Because I was like, it's ridiculous, but there has to be something, doesn't there?
Nothing would ever get sorted, because people would be fighting forever over, well, Dad wanted this or Mum wanted that. So, as I said, you know, earlier in the show, you either pass away with your own will, which is obviously preferable because it's your will, it's your last act on planet Earth. I like what you said, Hayley, it is your last gift to your family. And it is a gift, because I won't pretend that it makes a bereavement better, I beg your pardon, but it definitely doesn't make it worse. Whereas someone passing away intestate and getting the government will, and unfortunately we see it every single day. I wish we didn't, but we see it every single day where someone's passed away without a will, and what mess that can leave behind for the family. And it's all avoidable. It's all avoidable with a text tonight. It's all avoidable with a quick phone call tonight.
Emotions are so high, obviously, when you've lost a loved one, and that's how families can fall out, can't they?
It's the single biggest reason for a breakup in family relationships, because you're quite right, emotions are incredibly high. No one knows how grief's going to affect them until, sadly, it affects them. And then if you throw into that mix some uncertainty and ambiguity, Georgia said something about, you know, a mother leaving a wedding ring to a daughter, for example. Sometimes we've had daughters, you know, sisters fall out because they were adamant that Mom promised them the wedding ring or the engagement ring, and it wasn't documented anywhere, so who was right? And
it might even be, and you mustn't be embarrassed about this, because I think some people are, there might be a family member that you actually don't want anything to go to because there's been a family fallout, and sadly with the government will it'll all be equal, but you can make sure what you want to happen. And that's not an embarrassing thing to say, because there are many people, aren't they, that something's happened where they don't talk to a son or a daughter.
Look, I mean, no way belittling this, but they still make the fridge magnets that say, friends of the family I choose for myself. Blood isn't always thicker than water. And so again, unfortunately, it's not unusual for us for a client to say, I've not spoken to my son for 10 years, or I've not had, you know, I've not had a relationship with my daughter, and the children have stayed behind to help and care for me, so, you know, I'd rather leave my estate to them, to the exclusion of my son or my daughter, for example. Well, we have testamentary freedom in the UK, so that's the point in making your own will, is you can make that decision. You know, if something changes in the future, you can update your will. You know, if you reconcile, but if today you feel strongly that that's what you want to happen, again, the only way to do that is through a will, because if you pass away without, children are always going to inherit in equal shares, regardless of what you've said to the other children. So this really is an incredibly selfless thing that you're doing. You will definitely get something out of it when you go through the consultation, because, as I said, it's quite cathartic. I like what you said earlier as well, Shauna, it's a hand-holding service. We're in no way patronising, but this is what we do for a living. So we do hold your hand through the whole thing, make sure you're happy throughout the process, and we only actually draft your will for you when you're 100% happy with the instructions you've given us and you're 100% happy with the advice that we've given you. And that is just one of the main differences between trying to use your own template. You know, I will try and decorate my own house, but a professional decorator always does a better job.
Yeah.
And then there are certain things I wouldn't try at all. I wouldn't pull my own tooth, I'd go to a dentist. And when it comes to cars, yeah.
It's
Don't do it.
It's
I
so
wouldn't
true.
look at it.
And the other reassuring thing is, obviously, you've got a wealth of knowledge in your company. You're a
Georgia might, not so much me, not so much me.
But you are experts in this field. That's the thing, isn't it?
You're absolutely correct. We don't offer any other legal service. We specialise in private client legal services. Wills are at the heart of that. So it's wills and estate plan. It's protecting your assets. So as a group, we've got over 220,000 clients. We manage over £1.2 billion of assets for our clients now that's going to ensure they pass down to their children. But that's all we do. And I don't mean that's all we do in a negative way. It just means you wouldn't come to us for a boundary dispute, you know, a divorce or a personal injury claim or anything like that. But if you want to protect your assets, you want to do right by your loved ones, then you contact us and we'll help you do that.
And you give people that peace of mind if they go through all this and then they think, actually, this isn't right for me.
There's no risk to this at all. If you start this process, so we talked about a template a minute ago. Very, very quickly, if you make a template, it's all on you. You've got to make sure you're giving yourself tax advice. You know, the government next year are going to include pensions in the inheritance tax calculation. There's loads of things to consider. And again, if you don't know this area well, use an expert, speak to someone like Georgia. Not me, I'm useless. But on a serious note, if you contact us tonight, whether you phone us or whether you send a text in, we'll set an appointment for you at a time that's right for you. We'll send you some information to think about that as well. Then when you start your consultation, honestly, you'll be pleasantly surprised. It's not heavy, it's not morbid, it's really quite cathartic and it's incredibly useful. And at the end of that, if it's not been what I've said and you don't like anything we say, you don't like the process, it's not as nice as I'm making it out to be, just say I don't want to carry on and we'll give you your money back. It's absolutely risk-free. We'll only produce your documents, as I said, when you're 100% happy with the conversation that we've had. And after that, we'll even then help make sure that you get it signed, dated and witnessed correctly. Because even in this digital age, a will actually isn't valid until it's got a wet signature on it with 2 independent witnesses. And we help you with all of that as well. But it all starts with you sending a text this morning or picking up that phone. So I think you're right, Hayley. I'm one of those dual screeners and I can't multitask. I'm like, why am I looking at my phone when the TV's on? But if you've got your phone in your hand now, the easiest thing and one of the best things, believe it or not, you can do, it might not seem like it, because making a will, that can't be exciting, the best thing. But I promise you, it's one of the best things you can do for yourself and your family. And the easiest way to start is just text the word will to 66777. And you've made that first step. And I promise you, that's the hardest thing to do. And actually, it's also the easiest.
Yeah.
And you're doing it for less than £100.
Yeah.
It's that complete peace of mind. It's done. You want to do it, and you'll have in your mind an idea of what you want to happen, to what you've worked so hard for. But please remember, if you don't get a legally binding will, which you know you will get with simpler law, you have got that government will that will fall into place instantly, which will not be what you want to happen. And remember, you've got incredible deals tonight, but they are only for the next 3 working days. So get in contact right now, because sadly, if you miss those 3 working days, you've missed the extra 20% off. But also, I think we get muddled up with, you know, life and taking
Like Ian always says, life gets in the way,
kids
doesn't
are
it?
breaking up, and then, you know, your work, and there's so many things, and suddenly it'll be Christmas before we know it, and you still haven't got it done. So if you get in contact, you know you're virtually there. We're nearly April already.
This is just taking that first step, isn't it? Taking that first step, and that's the most important thing of all, getting the ball rolling. If you've thought about making a will, but you've just never got around to it, if you've thought it's going to be really expensive, well, we can address all of that tonight for you. Let's show you the offers once again. When it comes to your will, you're paying less than £100. £24.75 on your first of 4 interest-free payments. Should be almost £249, and even at that price, it's a good price. But with this time-limited offer, it comes down to £99. And with those 4 interest-free payments, £24.75 on your first of 4 payments. In a couple of moments, we are going to talk about lasting power of attorney. Now, the price on that should be £349. On the offer, £239, but with the extra 20% off, it comes down to £189. And you'll realise why that's as important as having a will when we talk about it in just a couple of moments. That comes down to £47.25 if you want to spread the cost interest-free on those 4 payments. But the best offer of all is the combination.
And it is, you've got an incredible saving of £349, should be virtually £600. And you might have already secured the will and think, oh gosh, I wish I'd done lasting power of attorney as well. Don't worry, as long as you secure the prices, you can then decide which deal you want to go for. It should be £315 as our special offer, but actually with the extra 20% off, it goes from nearly £600 down to £249, and you can split that cost with 4 payments of £62.25. And like we're saying, these months go so quickly. April, May, June, July, all of a sudden the summer's gone, all of a sudden it's winter. Make sure you secure those deals right now so you don't forget and miss the prices. And it's so easy to do exactly that, either via the website simplylaw.co.uk/shop on TV. We are on the phones right now. The team are there until 3 a.m. So 00333 600 2600. Get onto the phones. You might have a couple of questions, but all they want to know is that you would like to secure the prices. You don't need any information or text. Now, this is so easy. Perhaps you're like us and you've been talking to people all day. The last thing you want to do is talk to somebody. Just text Will to 66777. As simple as that. You've done it, the first step. And then the team will get back in contact with you and they'll sort out a time that's convenient for you to sit down and chat about your... Even if it's in the next 3 weeks, perhaps you're going away for a couple of weeks, it doesn't matter, just secure those prices while that extra 20% is available. Another reason to do it right now is for this book, and the first 250 people get this book. So by doing that tonight, you've got a great opportunity. It's worth £25, but actually it's worth so much more to the people that you leave behind.
Yeah, this is worth £25 and it's called What My Family Should Know. Basically, you record everything in one place, from things like pensions, bank accounts, life policies, but also things you might not think of. Things around the home and the house, things like your utility bills, your council tax, and then all your digital accounts. Things like passwords for mobile phones, for tablets, for computers, all in that one place. The first 250 people will get that book, so it's worth it just for that.
And those passcodes are so important. There might be... Not everything's post now, is it? You know, mums will be hunting through loads of boxes.
Lots of accounts are digital,
but lots of things are on the internet. But actually, it might be something more personal. It might be a video that you know is on your dad or your mum's or your sister's phone or tablet. It might be photographs that you know only they have got. So it really vital things that, again, will be so helpful to the loved ones you leave behind. Now, we've spoken about wills, and wills are so important. But lasting power of attorney, now, have you heard of that saying? This is something that is just as important as having a will, I think. It's
been in the press and on a lot of TV shows recently, how important lasting power of attorney is. So if you had heard of the term, but you're not quite sure what it is, Georgia, can you explain what a lasting power of attorney means?
Yes, so a lasting power of attorney is a legal document which allows you to appoint somebody that you trust implicitly to step into your shoes in the instance that you lose capacity and make day-to-day decisions on your behalf.
So when we say lose capacity, what would that mean as such?
So losing capacity, I mean, the most common one everyone thinks about is you get to a certain age, so Alzheimer's, for example, but it can actually happen at any time. It could be through a serious illness, could be an accident, it could even be a stroke where you could lose capacity.
I think a lot of us think we did mums, you know, really later on in life, thinking, oh, we're getting old now, we should get a lasting power of attorney, or mum did. But actually, we just don't know what's round the corner, do we? My friend was in a serious accident in her 40s, and so it's so important, I think, for everybody to think about a lasting power of attorney.
Oh, absolutely. And again, it's one of those documents where you sit there and you hope you're never going to need it, but it's always really important to have it about just in case.
But it's there if you do need it. Now, there are 2 different types of lasting power of attorney. We're going to talk about the financial one first of all, aren't we?
Yes, so the property and financial affairs. I mean, the beauty of these documents is that they're quite simplified in the sense that they do exactly what they say on the tin. So with the property and financial affairs document, it just allows somebody to make those decisions for you, whether it be in respect of your property. So, you know, there are occasions where you want to move, potentially downsize, for example, and move on.
There are, I mean, we're looking at the list here, just some of the things. So you might think, well, I would be able to do this anyhow, but actually, sadly, you can't, whether it's your partner, your loved one, your husband, your wife, your mum, your dad, and everybody knows you look after them normally. You won't be able to claim pensions or benefits or allowances. You won't be able to open or close, you know, accounts and things. And if you perhaps needed to sell the house for your loved one to go into a care home, you wouldn't be able to do that. And though I'm very much like, but everybody knows I would have my mum's best interests at heart. Again, the law can't accept that. And actually, you've said to me before, you can't go in. I couldn't go into my mum's bank now and sort her, or speak to someone on the phone. They want to talk to
Well, whenever
mum.
you make a phone call, one of the first questions they ask you is, are you the account holder? And if you say no, it stops there, and that's the same, isn't it?
Absolutely, and of course it would. You know, we'd all be furious, wouldn't we, if someone could just, you know, access our bank accounts or our data. That's why data protection exists. And it's strange because even today, you know, married couples will still turn around and say, well, it'll be okay because we'll be able to help each other out. And that's kind of what we ask people to think about is, well, whilst you're both fit and well today, can either of you access each other's bank accounts? Can either of you speak to an institution where you're not the account holder on behalf of the other person?
And even if they've got joint accounts, you both need to be well
to have capacity.
But by definition, it's joint. So if one of you can't act, then no longer is it being accessed jointly. So, you know, property gets tied up, bank accounts get tied up. The British Banking Association recommend the accounts frozen straight away. So, with a will, there's an inevitability. Hopefully, many, many years down the line, a will be read. But we know there's an inevitability to that. I don't think we've had an immortal client.
Not yet.
With a lasting power of attorney, let's be really clear, it's not an insurance policy. I call it a what-if document because with a lasting power of attorney, what you want to do is have it, but then hope that your family never need to use it. You hope that, you know, you have your health. But if life threw you a curveball, again, you've done something quite selfless and something really important for yourself because you know that you've chosen the people that you trust to step into your shoes. Now, the list that was on the screen a minute ago, that's not exhaustive at all. You know, if you think about all the people that you deal with on a day-to-day basis, weekly, monthly. Think about anyone that's moved house recently, just how many people you had to contact to do that.
Of course, yeah.
And we don't see it as much today because we have gone more digital. We're all encouraged to be paperless and that kind of thing, so we don't see it as much. But the second that you can't deal with those institutions, life can get really messy and really complicated again at what's already a difficult time. And human nature is all the bad stuff's always going to happen to someone else. But if life does throw you that curveball, the fact that you've taken the time out to put this document in place, your family will love you even more if you have, because it just, again, it doesn't make a bad situation better, but it certainly doesn't make it worse. And the alternative can make it a hell of a lot worse.
And that's the first when it comes to
and that's when we did mums. That's what we went to Simpler Law for the financial side of things, and it was really easy. Me and Mum were big worriers, and we thought, oh, we're going to know the answers. What should we know? And we didn't need to know anything.
It's not a test.
It's a sit-down conversation. Honestly, Simpler Law, they know the questions, and the person you deal with then becomes a friend, really. And not at one point did I think I was asking a silly question. You really can just sit down, relax, and get everything sorted. So, and then it was just complete peace of mind. But when we did sit down and chat, we then discovered that actually there's two different lasting power of attorneys. One is the financial, which is what we'd heard about, and often you hear about it when it's somebody else's story and it was too late and things went horribly wrong, and that's how and why we did mums. But then they mentioned as well there was a second, which I think is probably a bit more personal, and to me it was just as important,
now,
or
Georgia,
more important in a way.
This is the health and welfare, is it called?
Yes, that's right. Yeah. So with this particular document, it's all about your health and the care that you can receive. So you can see obviously on the list there, medical care is obviously one of the biggest ones. But say for example, if you do go into a care home, you know, everyone has their specific things they'd like to do, whether it be what to wear or what to eat. And this document also allows somebody to ensure that you have that care. You know, for example, if you want want nail polish on your nails, or you have specific things that you either can't eat or want to eat, it allows that.
And it sounds a bit sort of nothing to you, but if it's a loved one that you know loved to have their hair done, it was so important to have their nail polished. My best friend's a vegetarian, so important that she had vegetarian meals. It is something that's so important to a family member, or you know, if it's a loved one of yours.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And you want to make sure they're being well cared for as well. And just those little things, it gives you peace of mind and them as well.
And it can help as well to get a loved one into a care home closer to home rather than being sent miles away and things like. Wasn't there a story actually in it was in the papers? Was it around? It was around Christmas, because it was a nurse taking her mum home for Christmas. So she went and picked her up, took her home, and sadly, because she didn't have lasting power of attorney, it all went horribly wrong, and the police ended up getting involved.
Yeah, there's loads of stories like, and again, it always, to an outsider, it always seems like a little bit overkill, a little bit, well, this seems ridiculous, you know. At the end of the day, this woman was a nurse and it was a daughter. But if you think about it, what authority do we have over our parents? And what authority do we have over our parents if they're in the care system? And the obvious answer is we have none, unless that person has given us the authority. When you make a lasting power of attorney, you're actually referred to as the donor, because you are donating your power to someone, either someone that you, well, a person or persons that you trust, and you're basically giving them your voice, you know, physically, metaphorically, whatever way you want to view it. So when it comes to how you're cared for and where you live, you've given your voice to someone. This poor lady that decided she was going to bring her mum home for Christmas Day didn't have the authority to do that. And whilst it seems like it's a bit melodramatic again, the care home said, well, we've got a patient and she's been kidnapped. She's missing. So that's why the police were involved, and they caught up with her in a supermarket car park on Christmas Eve. And obviously had to take her back. You can go on the internet and find lots and lots of these stories. I must admit, when I first saw the health and welfare document many years ago, I was, the headlines in it, the bullet points like you've just seen there, they all seem, and I think you just said it, they all seem not insignificant, but, you know, trivial almost. You know, you mentioned nail polish, and people might be thinking, well, why is that important? But the second that we have something taken away from us as human beings, that can be devastating in even the small things. And sometimes, you know, how you look after yourself, that's part of your personality, that's part of who you are. And the more important things, as we just said about where you live, we're hearing all the time that, you know, the care system's stretched and local authorities are saying, well, we'll put that person in a care home there, and it's 50, 60 miles away from the family. Well, if you've not got a voice, you're going to find it even more difficult to challenge that decision. So as I said earlier, these are documents that you want to have but hope that your family never need to use them. But if they do, they will be absolutely over the moon's a stretch, but they'll be over the moon that you did these documents, because you've given them the power to basically step in and look after you.
And once we've done the documents, do they need to be registered as well?
They do. The important thing is to get them signed, dated and witnessed correctly. That's really key. And we help you with all of that again, and we even validate it, so we say that it's worth. Then it's personal choice as to when you register them. Some register them straight away, some decide to store them and maybe register them at a later date. Some parents know that their children are going to, you know, be adults soon, and they might want to add them. But either way, the document can't be used until it's registered with a body called the Office of the Public Guardian. Now, they charge a separate registration fee. The maximum at the moment is £92 per document. There are some remissions on that, so it can come down to half that price. And in some cases, it's absolutely free.
And of course, you know,
and we'll guide you through all of that as well. But again, it's a personal choice. Some people are like, just register it. You know, I've got no intention of using it, because who has? But just register it so I know it's done. And other people are like, well, I just want to know that it's there. And again, this is personal choice. The important thing is to have it drafted, signed, dated and witnessed correctly.
And if you haven't got lasting power of attorney, just like if you haven't got a will, there's a government will. What happens if a loved one, you know, is poorly and you're trying to, you know, sort out their bills and trying to sort out their health, you know, their care? What would you do to take control? What would you have to do to be able to
There's only one route for someone to take, and that they have to apply for what's called a deputyship order through something called the Court of Protection. Now, as the person that's incapacitated, you've then got to hope that the person who's actually presenting themselves to that court is the person that you would have chosen for yourself.
gosh, yeah.
Because we're privy to a case at the moment where we know for a fact that someone's got a deputyship order over someone that they wouldn't have wanted to have a deputyship order. So it's the court protection are there to protect the vulnerable person. But they cannot, and they can only act on the information that they're given, though.
And so, you can't speak up for yourself.
Correct. So when you make a lasting power of attorney, you obviously choose the people that you trust. Yeah. If you're incapacitated without a lasting power of attorney, someone clearly other than you has to go to the court of protection, has to apply for a deputyship order.
And what does that involve? That's
a really long-winded process and incredibly expensive. The application fee alone, you can see on the screen there, the application fee just to apply for a deputyship order is £421. They'll then do an assessment fee, and that's on you to make sure you're the right person for the role.
And this all has to come out of your funds,
because at this moment you've not got access. That's the whole point, yeah. So you can see there, basically, there's a total of £1,100 that's potentially payable just to apply, and that's if you do it all yourself. That £320, by the way, as you can see, says annual. That's an ongoing supervision fee from the court. So even if you are granted a deputyship order, the court will supervise how you use that money. And in some cases, they'll even put sort of a cap on what you can spend. So there was a story of a lady whose husband got knocked down and he was in a coma. So she had to go through the court protection because he didn't have a lasting power of attorney. And she was asked to pay her daughter's tuition fees. And she had to ask the court for permission to pay her own daughter's tuition fees. So even though she'd got a deputyship order, really, it was still very restrictive. In fact, she said something that always stuck with me. She said she cried the day that her husband passed away, but she also cried the day that she was released from the court of protection. And all of this, again, is avoidable. If we had a crystal ball and we could see that our life was perfect and there were no health issues and we never lost capacity, there was no curveball whatsoever, of course you wouldn't need this document. But we don't have that crystal ball. And it's weird because we will protect things that aren't as important as ourselves and our loved ones. If you ask people if they've insured the boiler, they might say yes. If they've insured like the mobile phone or the tablet, they might say yes. You know, insure the pets. Well, sometimes the pets are more important than children. But we will insure these physical things that we see in front of us and sometimes forget to look after ourselves. So again, just to be absolutely clear, lasting powers of attorney are not an insurance policy, but they are a what-if document. And if you had a crystal ball and you could see life throwing you that curveball, let's be honest, you wouldn't hesitate to make sure that your family could step in and look after you. And that's what we're saying. Look, give that some consideration because you never know.
It was such peace of mind when we did mums, and it was so easy. I'm scared of everything.
That's the
and
other
my mum's
thing,
the same. Worry about everything, anything legal. I think, oh gosh,
you don't need to be afraid.
I'm not going to understand it. They make it so easy, and once we've done it, and the only time I think about the fact we've got mum's lasting power of attorney is when
we do the show.
We do the show.
Yeah.
We put it away. We registered ours straight away. Put it away. Don't ever think about it, but you know that it is there, and it was a big weight off mum's shoulders.
And once again, Simple Law experts in the field when it comes to lasting power of attorney and wills. It is what they specialise in. It is what they do. When it comes to the offers that we've got for you, the prices are fabulous. But remember, these prices are only for the next 3 working days. So take advantage right now. I think that's the secret. Take that first step right now.
Absolutely. You can see there, and we will be going back to wills. Should be £249. I thought it would be thousands of pounds. It's so affordable as it is, but look how affordable it is tonight. To make sure what you want to happen, to what you've worked so hard for, actually happens. Remember, if you haven't got a legally binding will, the government will fall in place, and we'll tell you about that government will. One will for absolutely everybody, and not right for, I would say, anybody at all. So that's not what you want to happen. Get that will written, not for £124, our normal shop on TV price. You've got an extra 20% off, and we don't always have this deal, so grab it whilst we have it. £99, it's under £100, and you can split that cost, so 4 payments of £24.75. And when you think what you'd spend £24.75 on, whether that be a few cups of coffee, a few glasses of wine, honestly, this is money well spent, and it makes it so affordable.
The lasting power of attorney that we were just talking about, also the offer price is brilliant with the extra 20% off. So it should be $349. The offer price comes down to $239, but with that extra 20% discount, it comes down to £189. You've also got the 4 interest-free payments, $47.25 on your first of 4 payments there. And think what you spend $47.25 on day after day, week after week.
Well, we can't get a takeaway.
No,
for that.
No.
You know, honestly.
Well, we got one on offer the other day, and it was still more than that.
Yeah, honestly, it's money so well spent. Now, you might have already got in contact because you know it is a time-limited offer, and you also know, of course, that if you don't do it right now, you'll probably forget. But if you then decide you want to go for the will and lasting power of attorney, and you've already got in contact, and you then think, oh my goodness, I wish I'd asked just the will, and I wish I'd done will and lasting power of attorney. Don't worry, as long as you've got in contact, you will secure any of these prices. Now, normally their great offer is virtually £600. The shop on TV normal price, $315, and this is for the will and lasting power of attorney. But you have got an extra saving. You're actually saving more than you're spending. It's £249, which then you split over the cost of 4 payments. £62.25 is the first of those 4 payments. So you're saving £349. Remember, the first 250 people will get this fabulous book, What My Family Should Know. That book's worth £25. That's another reason to get in contact right now. Though you have got 3 working days, you're going to forget, aren't you? Just do it now, and you also secure that book, because that book always disappears.
So you can go to simplerlaw.co.uk/shop on TV. You can call the team in the call centre. They're right through to 3 a.m. 0333 600 2600. But the easiest way, whatever offer you're going for, whether it's wills, whether it's lasting power of attorney, is to text the word will, WILL, to 66777. That means you've registered your interest, you've secured the offer, and remember, the first 250 people will also get that book Hayley was talking about.
And texting will is so easy. You don't have to talk to anybody. You can go off to bed, you can go back to work, you know, off to work, whatever you're doing this morning, and you've secured the prices. The team will get back in touch with you, and then they'll discuss a time that's going to be convenient for you to sit down and talk about your will or lasting power of attorney. So even if you're going away, you know, for the next couple of weeks, don't panic. Just secure the price right now, and then you can sort out a date that's right for you, and you know you will get that same price, because that extra 20% off is incredible.
And it's all done at your pace. You don't need to know anything. You don't need any documents. It's about securing the offer, and they'll talk you through everything you need to know. Real hand-holding service. Amazing reviews that we'll share with you as we go throughout the show. How people mention the certain particular person they deal with.
They don't actually say, you know, when I dealt with Simpler Law, they'll say I dealt with so-and-so. And we were the same. They become, the person you deal with becomes a friend, and that person is the person you will always deal with, you know, whenever you ring or you email. So it's really nice. They become somebody you know, somebody you trust. And honestly, it's a sit-down conversation. You don't need to know the answers to anything. You don't need to find any vital information. They'll ask the right questions, and you'll have those right answers.
Details on the screen are back to the details if you want to write a will, a legally binding will with people who specialise in the field. We're working directly with Simpler Law tonight. If you've just joined us and you're wondering what it's all about, maybe you haven't got round to writing a will. Maybe you've thought it's going to be too expensive. Well, all of those things are addressed with us here with Simpler Law on the show.
And did you know, if you haven't written your own legally binding will, you've actually got a will? It's frightening, isn't it? Well, who's written that? The government have written it. And that government will, sadly, will automatically, even if you've told the whole family what you want to happen, it doesn't matter. That government will fall into place. And sadly, it will not be what you want to happen. This is how you, when you hear that story, you know, someone died down the road and they were going to leave it to the neighbour, and they hadn't written a will. So sadly, then you find out it went to a long-distant relative in Australia that they'd never met. And that's because the government will fell into place. And it might, you know, it might be that you don't want to leave things to certain people. It might be that you want to, there's lots of things. You want to make sure your dog's looked after. You're thinking about the kids and what age
There's
they
so
might
many different things you can
so
do.
many things. Don't ever think you haven't got anything, because we've all got something. And whether that's a family heirloom, whether that's your wedding rings, whether that's your house, your car, doesn't have to be financial things. Whether that is your pet, in a will, you can do so many things. But sadly, if you don't get it written down legally, that's not going to happen.
It won't happen, yeah. And now we're joined by the team from Simple Law. Ian and Georgia are with us in the studio. And when it comes to wills, I think we should start right at the beginning. Everybody needs a will, don't they, Ian?
It's your last gift to your family, and it's your last act on planet Earth. And to be honest with you, everything you've worked hard for, if you want to make sure that's going to where you want it to go, the only way to ensure that is to create your own will. Because as Hayley rightly said, we've all got a default will otherwise, and there is no grey area in between. We either pass away with our own will, a bespoke document that's all about you and all about your family and is written for you, or you pass away without that in place and the government will steps in, which is just a default position. It's just a mop-up to ensure that there is a distribution of that person's estate. And that's sadly what catches families and people out, because that isn't what Dad wanted, that isn't what Mum wanted. But of course, it's an obvious statement to make at that point, it's then too late.
Yeah.
So the time to act is now. So if you've been thinking about making a will, you've got a great opportunity tonight. The team are waiting for you, or 333 600 2600, or just text the word will to 66777, and you will have done something absolutely amazing, not just for your family, but I promise for yourself as well. I always say this, and I predominantly say it on this show, but I've heard myself saying it outside of this studio, because I mean it 100%. No one ever regrets putting a will in place,
No.
but your family could very well regret that you didn't, and that's absolutely true. And you don't want to leave that regret, because it's all avoidable.
And it's everybody, because the government will wouldn't work for Sean and myself.
Well, that government will we talk about, it's just a series of yes/no questions, isn't it?
I apologise. I always feel like I'm correcting you. I'm going to do it again, because I understand why you say it won't work for you. It's not about working, because it does work for you. It just doesn't do what you want. The government will works every single time. It just doesn't care about you.
So if that was us, the questions we just saw on screen there, Ian, what would be the process for us if we didn't have a will in place?
The first question it asks of the person that's passed away is, are you married in a civil partnership?
So that'd be no.
And we're not.
Let's be honest, we've been doing this for years. You two don't know whether you've been together 33, 34,
I
35
think
years.
it's 35. It was 90, it was 91, 35.
And here's the awful thing, is whilst we care and we're having a laugh about it, the rules of intestacy don't.
Right.
They just don't.
So we've been together longer than perhaps some people have been married, but it wouldn't matter. And even though all our family know what's mine is Sean's, what Sean is mine, that wouldn't happen.
So forgive me for interrupting you earlier, but that's the reason why I said it does work, because it's going to work now, but it's just perhaps not going to do what you would want it to do and what most people would expect it to do. So the fact you've been a couple for 35 years and everyone expects you to inherit from each other, there's no provision whatsoever in the government will for unmarried couples. So Hayley would get nothing from you, Sean, and Sean, you will get nothing from Hayley. And that's just the way it is, and people are going, no, that's not right. And no, that's the way it's written. There's no provision at all from married couples. You're either married in a civil partnership or you aren't. And even if you're married, there's even a limitation to what your spouse is guaranteed to get as well. So
a monetary limit.
Yeah, 322,000 is a limit, and once you go above that, then it starts to get a bit convoluted if you've got children, because they give half of the extra amount to your children. Then you start to talk about chattels. We won't go there.
Oh,
and then the other half goes back to your spouse. But this can mean that property has to be sold and things like that.
But we don't need to know any of this.
No, absolutely not. All you need to know is if you want to make life easier for yourself and for your family, then make a will.
Yeah.
It really is a selfless act.
And there's so many people now married with children from different relationships that are... You are one big family. The children don't see themselves as stepbrothers or stepsisters. You don't see them as stepchildren. That you're one happy family. Everybody knows that. But it doesn't work. Well, I say it doesn't work, but it's not.
Sorry,
it's not going to.
She's scared now to say that.
It doesn't work. It doesn't work for them either, does it?
Sorry, I was being really pedantic when I corrected you saying it doesn't work, but because I knew exactly what you meant. But of course, the government will never fails. It just always ends up with the distribution.
It works for the government.
Well, it works in the purpose that it's meant to serve, which is this default position that if you pass away without a will, there has to be something.
Yeah.
And it's certainly not unusual now for us to speak to a family that, you know, maybe the parents are on the second marriage, sometimes even more than that, and then not unusual for them to have children from previous relationships. That's not a shock today. That's quite normal. These rules that basically underpin the government will were created in 1925. So in 1925, if you heard about a couple on the second marriage with children from previous relationships, your head would have exploded. Society was very different.
Yeah, it wouldn't have happened, would
And
it?
so the underpinning of the government will hasn't changed that much. So sadly today, if you do have children from previous relationships, it doesn't matter whether you view yourself as a complete family, because the rules of intestacy don't. They see it sees two separate bloodlines. So forgive the finger puppets. I should draw little faces on there, shouldn't I? But if this is Mr. and this is Mrs. and he's got a child from a previous relationship and Mrs. has got a child from a previous relationship, if he passes away first, everything goes to Mrs. under the government will. But when she passes away, all goes down to her child only. So his child has received nothing at all. And again, people are going, well, that can't be right. And it's not about right or wrong. That's what the law says, and that is the law if you allow yourself to pass away and be given the government will. So please don't pass away with the government will.
And that could that would be such a big upset, wouldn't it? And please don't think you have to be in a relationship or you have to be married or you have to have children, because even as a single person, and wasn't there was a gentleman, and there's so many stories, and you can go on the internet and look at so many stories, but there was a gentleman and his neighbour had looked after him, or his friend had looked after him for years and years, and he'd said to him, I'm going to leave you the house, you know.
Everyone in the village knew. They were like Bert and Ernie. They just didn't live together. But everyone in the village knew that they, you know, best of friends for years, and it was, you know, it was always sort of half joked about, you know, as we do, don't we? You know, when no one wants to talk about. But everyone knew that when this gentleman was passed away, that the house was going to go to his friend Robert. And when it came to it, months after this gentleman passed away, people were asking Robert whether he'd inherited or not. And he said, well, you know, it wasn't friends so he could get the house.
About that, yeah.
But what transpired was his friend never made a will. So there was no way for it to get to Robert because he's not family. So even though they saw each other as family, Robert wasn't family, it wasn't blood. And so unfortunately, it ended up passing to, I think, a second cousin in Canada or something like that. And again, people were like, that's not what he wanted. And you can't.
He hadn't written it down.
Yeah, and look, we can't speak ill of the dead, and maybe he just thought that it was enough because everyone knew. But this unfortunately is what catches people and families out every single day, Georgia, unfortunately, isn't it? We see it every single day, is people going, that's not what Dad wanted, that's not what Mum wanted. And we're like, well, did they do a will? And they're like, no. Right, so it is option A or option B. Option A is you pass away with your own will. It's bespoke to you, it's your document, it's your last gift to your family. That's brilliant. The fact you've passed away isn't, but the fact you've done a will is. Or it's option B, you didn't make a will, and unfortunately that's where the government will comes in as the default position. And if you sat there thinking that won't happen to me, or you think everything will be okay, just do yourself a favour and ask yourself the question, why do you think that's the case? Who's told you? And if it's a pub quiz champion, worry. Because there's always someone in the pub who knows better than anybody else who'll tell you that you're common law husband and wife, or tell you that everything will be okay. We hear things like, well, we've been together for 2 years now, so we know we've got rights. Or we've lived together for X amount of time.
It's all those
we
misconceptions,
thought that,
isn't it? There's so many misconceptions out there.
Yeah.
The other thing to point out, Georgia, I think when we think about the will, we think, oh, it's just about our money. But it's not just about that, is it? You can put so much more into your will.
Yeah, absolutely. Pretty much everything, to be honest. So, you know, ranging from funeral wishes and how, you know, you want certain things done, right down to looking after your pets, which is usually one of the most important ones. So it was for my sister anyway. She even left a little fund for them to be looked after. And that's another thing you can do that you don't even think about.
If you want to leave it to charity, what you've got.
It could be heirlooms, couldn't it? It might be that specific. It could be a ring. I know in Hayley's family there's a certain clock that they want to pass down through the family bloodline.
But that's really important. You know, here's the thing. When you make your own will, the key words are you choose. It's your choice. When we draft a document, it's unique every single time. It's unique to our client because, you know, there's only one of you, there's only one of your family. So the document should be unique. If you pass away under the rules of intestacy, we all have the same template with the same questions in, because it is just a default position. So when you make your own will, you choose who's going to administer it. So you choose your own executors. If you've got young children or young grandchildren, you choose what age they inherit. If you have got young children, you can choose guardians for them. You can give specific gifts, like you mentioned, charitable donations. We talk about clocks. You can leave these specific gifts so you know they're going to pass to the right people. It's not left to chance. And not all families are perfect. If there's someone that you don't want to inherit, you can put in what's called a non-provision clause. You can exclude people from your will as well. And as Georgia just said, right down to really personal details, like people will document funeral wishes, even if it's just cremation or burial. I mean, you can have all kinds of things now. You can have green things in wicker things. You can turn yourself into a diamond. We've heard some weird and wonderful stuff. But this is the beauty of making a will. It's actually quite cathartic. And it's really interesting listening to what opinions and views that different clients have got.
It's your final wishes, isn't it?
And it's so important for it to be legally binding, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because I think some people might, right, I need to write a will. I saw a template and I could write my own. But sadly, they can go very wrong, can't they? Because it's terminology and it's knowing how it works.
There was a couple who wanted their grandchildren to inherit, wasn't there? But
they'd purchased a high street template, and they basically drafted the same will twice, or the gentleman did. And they just followed the guidance, which is fine. But of course, a template can't give you any advice. It can tell you where to put what you want to happen, but won't give you any advice along the way. And, you know, we might say something strange around the office like first death and second death, and that won't mean a great deal to people until I explain it here. But obviously when there's a couple, we don't know which one's going to pass away first. So if they want to leave gifts, for example, we'll ask if they want to leave that gift when one of them's passed away or after they've both passed away. And so coming back to this couple that you've remembered, he'd written a will where it was obviously wanted to leave everything to his wife, but they also wanted to leave £20,000 cash gifts to the grandchildren. And when he wrote the will, there was 3 grandchildren, so there was £60,000 come out of the estate. When he passed away, there was 8. So there's now £160,000 to come out of the estate. Wow. But the way he'd written the will was he'd put the cash gifts in to come out before everything else went to his wife.
Oh, God.
And he owned the house outright. So for those cash gifts to be made to his grandkids would have meant selling the property when it's obvious that that's not what he wanted, because he wanted his wife to inherit everything and live there. But the way the wills were drafted, they weren't incorrect in the sense that they actually worked. They were incorrect in the sense they didn't achieve what he wanted to achieve. And this is why it's something so important as your last act on planet Earth and as a will, this legal document. I actually get really frustrated that templates are out there. You know, in what other profession would you do that? What, am I going to go on see a video if I've got I need a root canal? I'll
do that myself.
Actually, I'd probably attempt brain surgery because I couldn't mess this one up. Look, and I'm not being facetious, but, you know, we have people with industry-specific qualifications that have been doing this for decades. We carry £5 million of professional indemnity insurance. So if we get it wrong, and touch wood, we've never had a will fail, but if we get it wrong, you're insured. So I don't know why you would take the risk of using a template, because these templates aren't free. You still have to pay for them, and then you're taking all the risk. Whereas if you use a professional company like ours, we take all the responsibility for doing it right, and in a non-patronising way, we hold your hand through the whole process, so you know at the end of it that what you're getting is exactly right for you, and it's a fully insured service.
And you know when things change government-wise, law-wise, where we've got no
Which constantly changes, doesn't it?
I'm fascinated at parties, especially when there's been a change in legislation. People gravitate towards me.
I bet.
They specifically love it when I talk about the Inheritance Act of 1975. That's one of my favourite pieces.
That one of your winners.
Do you go to many parties?
Not anymore.
Not really.
Not anymore. I used to get invited. But again, you're quite right, because this is all we do. This is all we specialise in. You wouldn't come to us for any other area of the law apart from protecting your assets. We specialise in wills, lasting power of attorney, trusts. You know, we've written over 1/3 of a million wills. We've never had one.
You're award-winning, and you've got more awards possibly coming up.
On the way, yeah. More nominations.
Who's told you that?
Oh, you see, we know our stuff.
Genuinely, actually, who's told you that? Because it wasn't me, was it? So you're well informed.
You can see the already achieved award there, Simple Law, a winner, and that's all about the whole team, isn't it?
Look.
And the reviews prove that, don't they?
I like what you said earlier. It's very rare that a client will turn around and say Simple Law were great, truthfully. It's about the individual. It's about the person that you're speaking to, because that consultant genuinely cares about what you want to do. That's their only job, is to, right, how do I help this client today? What's their situation? And we'll always give you best advice, and it's up to you how much of that advice you take. You take all of it, you take some of it, you take none of it. But at the end of it, you make a fully informed decision and you get the document that's right for you. And clients like that. We're straight talking, we keep it nice and simple, and at the end of it, you're guaranteed to get the document, which is why they'll say things like Kim was great, Kylie was great, That makes us very, very proud, but there's obviously a full team around that as well, which is why we've won these awards, because, it's not just about the consultant, it's about the administrative team that basically, we professionally bind these documents as well. They don't just come out with a staple in them and things like that. There's a lot that goes into getting this right. So please, if you've been thinking about making a will and you're listening to me drone on now, this is a perfect opportunity to send the text and go to bed.
And there's a huge chance you'll be writing one of those 5-star reviews. There are so many, and perhaps if you read some of the 5-star reviews, you'll understand Simple Law do make it so easy. They never think that your situation is too complicated. They've got the knowledge to know exactly what to do.
Let's take a look at one of those reviews. This one from Alan says, our consultant Charlotte explained everything in clear, unambiguous terms. Pricing was made clear and cooling off period was explained. It's also a money back guarantee we'll get Ian to explain to you once again. Consultant was very pleasant and caring, sensitive to our needs. All necessary legal terms were explained in plain and simple English. I think that's really important, because when you think about law, you think the terminology is going to be really confusing.
I panic, if the light's flashing behind, if there's a policeman behind me, I instantly think it's me, I did it wrong. And when I did the lasting power of attorney with Simple Law with my mum, I really did, we worry about everything. But I thought, I'm not going to understand, it's going to be a long word, I'm not going to know, and I'm going to feel
ask the right questions.
I'm going to ask the wrong questions, I'm going to ask silly questions. And honestly, they make it so easy, they explain it so brilliantly that not at any point did I think I was asking a silly question. I knew I was relaxed, I could ask absolutely anything. And even after we'd had the call, and that's the great thing, you can just be at home. We did a video call and it makes it, really simple. I was thinking, why didn't I ask that? I could email, and I knew it wasn't a problem. They work at your pace, you're not rushed.
I think that's really important as well.
And you know that when it is finalised, it's what you want, and it is correct as well.
Even down to the signatures on the will, it has to be a wet signature even in this day and age. So they talk you through everything. It's all that proper professional advice from a proper professional company, and that's why Simple Law are so popular with us here at Shop on TV, because not only do they get that first step for you, you get that start, everything's really affordable, but it is a time-limited offer.
Yeah, the prices are quite incredible, so this is definitely a reason to get in touch right now, so you secure the price. Even if you can't actually sit down and chat about your will or your lasting power of attorney for a couple of weeks, perhaps you're going away, that's fine, just secure the price. And when you see the prices, I bet we imagined it would be thousands, to tell you the truth, to write a will, to do a lasting power of attorney. And we've heard, actually, because people talk to us because they know we do these shows, and it has cost them thousands of pounds, to do their will and lasting power of attorney. Look at the prices we've got. If you want to do your will at full price, £249, worth every single penny. What you've worked so hard for, it's actually going to what you want to happen is going to happen. Because if you haven't written a legally binding will, the government will, which we'll tell you about again, will fall into place, and that's one will for everybody. How can that be right for anybody? So for normally £124, you've got a great deal, but the reason we really push you to do this right now is this offer is another 20% off, so it's under £100, £99, and split that cost to 4 payments of £24.75. I bet you spend more than that on coffee a week. That is money so well spent, and splitting it into 4 payments makes it so affordable as well. Lasting power of attorney, we will get back to that as well. Again, £349 is the regular price, which you will find is a really good price as it is. Our regular price when we do an offer is £239, but again, you have right now for the next 3 working days, but do it now, got that extra 20% off, so £189 is your deal, and you split that cost over 4 payments of £47.25, which is less than a takeaway for us if we get a takeaway. And then you might decide, and even if you decide later on in the show and you've already got in contact, it's fine, you're securing all these prices. If you then decide, well, actually, I want a will and lasting power of attorney, you're saving £349 here. You're saving more than you're spending. It should be virtually £600. You've got a regular price of $315, so brilliant saving there. But actually, with that extra 20%, $249. So from £600 practically to $249, and then split that cost, £62.25. That's 4 payments. And don't forget as well, though we encourage you to get in contact now because we do get lost. The world takes over, doesn't it? The day takes over. You have to take the kids to school, or you're going on holiday, or suddenly it's summer and suddenly it's Christmas again and you haven't got round to it. Get in contact today so you know you've done it, but also so you get this book. The first 250 people get this book, What My Family Should Know. And for your family, this is vital information.
And this is where you record all things like your assets, your pensions, your bank accounts. But on top of that, there's other things that you might not think about. Life policies. How many life policies have you got? Are they here, there and everywhere? It could be things like house alarms, your utility bills, pets and animals, all those really important things. This one, online backup and cloud storage. It could be passwords for iPads, for tablets, for phones, for computers, all in that one place. Saves you searching around trying to find all that really important information. It's all in one place. Remember, the first 250 people to sign up or to take advantage of the offers will get that book worth £25.
I always say that, well, I originally said you should get it from birth, but that's a bit early, isn't it? You should get it from when you start working, because do you know your parents, how many different jobs they had and how many pensions they might have? And do you know their passcode for the phone? And perhaps they've got vital information on emails that you need to get to, or perhaps it's photos that you know are on there, or videos, something really sentimental, and you can't get on if you haven't got the password. No one can discover that password. And we had that situation with a family member. The grandfather died very suddenly, wasn't expected at all. They really needed to get onto his tablet and no one had the passcode. They didn't know the numbers, they didn't know how to get on, and it was only by chance, and they were always trying to speak away from the grandchild, and the grandchild heard them and he was like, I know Grandad's number because he let me play the games on his tablet. And that was vital information that they needed, which they would never have got. And it's all in there. So again, it's peace of mind for the family you leave behind. But remember, the first 250 people get this. Secure the price right now, and then you can deal with when's the right time to sit down and talk, but get in contact, and that's so easy. You can either go via Simpler Law's website, simplerlaw.co.uk/TV on shop on TV, simplerlaw.co.uk/shop on TV. Or you can jump onto the phones. Now, they are on the phones until 3 a.m. You might have a couple of questions, but honestly, you don't need any information. It's just for you to say, I want to secure these prices. So that's 0333 600 2600. But the most popular and always super busy, and I know because we started so early this morning, it will be busy. Text that word "will" to 66777. And instantly you've secured the prices and you can go off to bed, you can go out to work, and you haven't had to speak to anybody.
Yeah, the other great thing is you don't need anything with you.
No.
You don't need any documentation. It's just about securing those offers that we've been talking about. And then the process has started. And that's the thing, starting that process.
Perhaps you've listened to the stories and you think, I don't want the government will to fall into. I know what I want to happen to what I've worked so hard for. And right, I need to write a legally bind. I want to do it. Get in contact and secure that price, and then that will be done. We do put things off, don't we? I'll do it tomorrow, You've only got 3 working days for the price, but actually all of a sudden a week's gone, a month's gone, all of a sudden it'll be summer, then it'll be winter, it'll be Christmas before we know it. And you think, oh, I still haven't done it. And one day, sadly, it will be too late.
So take that first step and take advantage of those great offers that we've got for you. When it comes to writing a will, I don't want you to think it's complicated. It's literally a hand-holding service that Simpler Law take you through. Experts in the field. And when it comes to your will, it's not just about money. With a will, you can do so many different things. Actually, we've got a list of, just to give you an idea of some of the things you can do with your will, not just the money. Because when we look at this list, Georgia, this is just a few things, isn't it?
Yeah, it's definitely not an inclusive list, but you can start with things such as your funeral wishes, as is listed there, you know, down to who you want to inherit, or alternatively who you don't want to inherit.
Yes.
So it's very important and not something that a lot of people know about.
Very common now, isn't it?
Oh, it's so common. We see it every single day. But, you know, it's even to the age of you know, your beneficiaries when you want them to inherit. So for example, if you have younger children.
So naturally children or young adults that inherit at 18.
Yes, that's the legal age.
You can change that if you want to.
You can indeed. You can pick a specific age or stagger it over time depending on your preference.
Because you might think they'll absolutely waste it at 18, and you might think, well, actually, I'd rather give them a bit at 18, but then, you know, perhaps at a time when they're off to university, perhaps give them a little bit more, and then perhaps a time when they might be looking at buying a house, give them a little bit more. So, you know, the money's been split properly so that it's not just sort of thrown away.
Yeah, we see, you know, a lot of parents, you know, their specific wishes, they want their child to receive a sum of money for those big purchases, such as buying a house, putting a deposit down. Exactly, and we see that every single day.
You know your kids.
Yes.
You know them better than anybody else. I giggle when I see parents going, yeah, daughter can have it 18, son 25.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you know your children, you know whether it's right for them to inherit everything at 18 or not. You know, there's some very level-headed 18-year-olds, and at the same time, there's some people who haven't found their way, you know, and it'd be catastrophic potentially for them to inherit.
Sum of money,
The whole point of that list that was on the screen there, and the whole point of making your will, the two biggest words are you choose. You know, you choose all of that. If you pass away without a will, then the government's choosing what happens to your estate, not you. And that's
so you have got a will then. So if you haven't written your own legally binding will and you pass, it's no good thinking, well, it's okay, I've told the kids what I want to happen. Or for Sean and myself, we're not married, so but all our family knows what's mine is Sean's. I was going to say what's mine is mine. What's mine is Sean's. What's
Freudian
Sean's?
slip there, Sean, I think.
Sean's is mine. It was, honestly. But sadly, that government will fall into place, and that's one will for absolutely everybody's situation.
If you haven't made your own will, if you haven't got a valid will when you pass away, basically the government will steps in, because there has to be a default position. Obviously there'd be anarchy, because how would anything ever get sorted if there wasn't something else in place?
Yeah, because you think that's ridiculous, but then there has to be something.
Yeah, and unfortunately, you might not. My eyes are so bad. I don't. If our viewers can see that, well done. But basically, it's a list of questions, yes or no questions, that are asked of the person that's passed away. And interestingly, it always starts with your marital status. That's the first thing it's interested in: is was the person that passed away married or in a civil partnership? Now, the thing to take away from that, it doesn't ask if you're in love. No. It doesn't ask if you've been together for 35 years. It doesn't ask if you're cohabiting. It doesn't ask about anything other than your marital status. And your marital status is you're either married or in a civil partnership, or you're not. There isn't anything such as a common law husband and wife, which is a...
And we thought that, and I think a lot of people out there will think that, but there isn't, is there?
No, there's a lot of myth and misconception around estate planning, and certainly around what happens when you pass away. And there's lots of unqualified people who will, usually at a pub after the second or third pint, will impart their wisdom and tell you that you are common law husband and wife, or you don't have to worry because everything will be okay because you've lived together for 2 years. I don't know where all these rumours start, but they are quite dangerous in the sense that people that think, oh, we'll be okay, and then think, well, we won't bother getting a will then because we're going to be okay. Obviously, when something bad happens, then it's too late to fix it. So the reason we do these shows, we want to break down those myths and misconceptions and say, look, if you want to know for certain that what you want to happen when you're no longer here does happen, then put a will in place. That's why we do these shows, and that's why we do these amazing offers. I don't know why our CEO's allowed this one to keep running for as long as it has, but in all seriousness, you know, if you're sat watching this now, you've got a brilliant opportunity to grab this, because you're right on the price. You know, the cost of the will at $24.75 a month for the next 4 months, we do spend money. I got robbed on the way to the studio tonight.
Here we go.
No.
Here we go.
Did you stop for a coffee?
No.
What did you do?
I filled it with some petrol.
Oh.
I got robbed by pump number 6. I stopped at exactly the wrong petrol station and didn't look at the price, and I was thinking, is that litres or is it?
Whole?
But look, we all know, we hear the cost of living crisis and things like that. This is not an expensive thing. And we also know that if you've worked hard for what you've got, it feels like people are trying to take it away from us. You know, even the government next year are going to include pensions in their inheritance tax calculation. So if ever there was a time to get your affairs in order and plan, it's now. Because if not, life gets in the way. You know, if you say, well, I'll do it next year, I'll do it when I'm a bit older. We can't do anything yesterday because it's gone. We never do anything tomorrow because it never comes. We've only got now. So if you've got an opportunity to do something, pick up the phone tonight because you won't regret it, or send that text. Because whilst you might not think a will's exciting or sexy, and I'm sure there's better things you think you can spend your money on, but actually there isn't. What you get for that money is phenomenal, and not only do you get peace of mind, but your family will never ever regret that you did that.
And it's vital for everybody. So even though, you know, we're in a situation where we're not married, so the government won't help us at all. You know, it's not going to give what Sean's isn't mine, what's mine isn't Sean's, because that government it goes elsewhere. But if you're married, it still doesn't make things right. And if you're married with children from different relationships, which lots of people are now.
Blended families, mixed families.
And don't even see themselves really as a blended family. They are brothers and sisters. They're not stepbrothers or they're not stepchildren. They're one big family. But that government will not see that at all, will it?
Yeah, the rules of intestacy don't care about you or the makeup of your family. When you make your own will, you can make provision for the fact there might be children from different bloodlines, so you can deal with all of that because it's your will that matches your situation. The default will, and to be fair to the preceding governments, they've tried to tweak it, they've tried to, but there's so many permutations.
So complex.
Yeah, that's why we have testamentary freedom in the UK, is you can make your own will that matches your situation. In the scenario you've just given, where there's a couple that are perhaps on the second marriage with children from previous relationships, again, the rules of intestacy just talks about the marital status and it follows your bloodline. So if you've got that situation, let's say Mr. passes away first, everything under the rules of intestacy passes to his wife, that may seem perfectly okay, that's what they wanted to happen, but they're probably both working on the assumption then that everything's going to go down to both children in equal shares. But actually, when Mrs. passes away, it will only go down her bloodline to her child, totally excluding Mr.'s child or his children, because it follows your bloodline.
And everybody go, well, that's ridiculous.
That's so wrong, that's not right. Yeah, but that's the way it is, isn't it? If you haven't written it down.
And look, this isn't scaremongering at all. This is just factually what happens. And again, sadly, and it sounds melodramatic when I say we see it every day, but the size that our company is, we see it every day because we get these phone calls every day saying, this has happened, what can we do to fix it? And invariably it's nothing because it's too late. And they're the worst phone calls we get at the office, are the too late phone calls. You know, if you'd have spoken to us a month ago or 2 weeks ago or now, you know, if your phone's in your hand, text the word will to 66777. It'll be one of the best things you ever do. It won't feel like it. You're not going to go cartwheeling to bed tonight going, I've applied for a will, I've secured a will. But I promise you, when you get a will, there might be a weight lifted that you didn't even know existed. Yeah. But the key thing is your family will really appreciate that you did it, because the stress it takes away from them, the ambiguity it removes, and more importantly, it kicks government will into touch. No one should pass away intestate. Your last act on planet Earth should be yours.
What you want to happen should happen.
Yeah.
And you don't have to be married, you don't have to have children, you don't have to be living with someone. You can be an individual person, but
everyone needs a will,
still need.
If you've got an account and you've got something and you know what you would like to happen, then you need a will, because that's the only way that it will happen. Otherwise, the government will steps in for every single person. You know, it doesn't even deal with funeral requests. You don't even know who's actually going to step forward. It's relying on the next of kin to step forward. It can get really messy and complicated, unnecessarily so. And for the price that we're offering these wills at the moment, this doesn't have to be expensive, and I promise you it's certainly not morbid, is it?
No, absolutely not.
And it is that weight lifted. I know a lot of people who have the consultation. And the other thing to say is, once you assign someone from the team, you deal with the same person.
Unless it's Charlotte. People don't want to keep Charlotte. Charlotte's
They love
horrible.
Charlotte. Charlotte's an old friend. Don't start knocking Charlotte.
About Charlotte. Yeah, so, and the service we provide, it's very much a hand-holding service. You are the centre of our service. So, and there's no need to worry about anything. You don't need to know anything. That's why we're here. We're here to deal with all that technical wording and the terminology, and it's not anything that you need to worry about. And that's another bonus as well. We'll take care of that, and you're just left with that peace of mind.
And all that's explained as well.
Yeah.
Exactly. If there's any words that we don't understand, it's explained to us.
Well, to clarify, when you say you don't need to know anything, that's absolutely true. But you don't need to know anything because you already know it all.
Yeah.
Right.
Because we have all the questions, you've got all the answers. Because don't forget, this isn't the will's going to be created by simple law, and all the advice and the documents going to be insured by simple law. So you're fully protected. We've got the responsibility for doing it right, but it's your will. It's not ours. It's your document. So what goes into that document is all the answers that you give us. So whilst you don't need to know anything from a technical nature, you have all the answers because you know who you are, you know what's in your estate. And yes, we have to take you to a dark place for 30 seconds. You know, if the worst did happen yesterday, what would you want to see happen? You know, and you have to give that a little bit of thought. And then when you tell us what you want to happen, that's what we make happen. And only when you're 100% happy with the instructions you've given us will we produce that document for you. And sadly, without that document, there isn't a guarantee. The only guarantee you've got then is that you're going to get the government will, and that's just going to do what it's going to do and doesn't care about you or your family. So please make a will.
Yeah, and if you're watching right now, perhaps you were meant to be watching. Perhaps it is something you do keep putting off or keep forgetting to do, or perhaps you were the same as us and you just thought, well, everybody knows. We've been living together for so long. Everybody knows what's mine is Sean's, what's Sean is mine, or perhaps you've told the family, you've told the kids exactly what you want to happen.
It'll be okay.
And whatever situation you're in, even if you're an individual person, you haven't got a partner, you haven't got children, honestly, still so important that you write that will. There's somebody that you want to leave what you've worked so hard for to, or perhaps actually there's somebody you don't want to get certain things. You can put, and whatever question you've got, I'm sure Simpler Law will know the answer. I know some people, like, we've got friends that, because we're terrible now, we'll sit down to dinner and we're
preachy.
like, have you got a will in that? And they were like, no. And we're like, you are kidding me. You haven't got a will. And they're like, it's just too complicated. And we're like,
get in touch with Ian.
No, you've got to write a will. And we did make them get in touch, force them to get in touch with it. And it wasn't too complicated. Nothing's too complicated. You must have come across nearly all and everything.
Generally, I can't remember an instance where we haven't been able to draft a will. You know, and conversely, if clients phone up and think it's complicated, like your friends, and yes, it wasn't straightforward, but it certainly wasn't that complex because we talk it through.
Yeah.
And, you know, and we can do things that perhaps you don't think we can because this is what we do. We're professionals at it. We've been doing it a while. Where we tend to panic, truthfully, is where a client says, oh, you're going to love me because this is nice and simple. Then a sort of shiver runs down your spine. You're like, buckle up.
Here we go.
Buckle up. This one could get messy. But I cannot think of an instance where we've not been able to write a will for a client. It's as simple as that. It shouldn't be the reason that you don't decide to go ahead because you think it's going to be complicated. The thing is, unless you speak to us and give us an opportunity to go through that consultation with you, you won't know. And here's the thing, it's risk-free.
Yeah.
If when you start that consultation, or even when you finish that consultation, you go, do you know what, that wasn't for me. Ian said that I would say thank you at the end of it, and I didn't. Just say, this isn't for me, I'll have my money back, please, and we'll give you your money back. So you've got absolutely nothing to lose. But the proof of the pudding's in the eating. If you pick up the phone today, or you send that text today, we will book a consultation appointment that's at the right time for you, and we'll hold your hand through that process, not in a patronising way, just to make sure you're completely happy, and we'll go at your speed. And if you're not happy at that point, you say, this is not for me, and you get your money back. The vast majority of clients get the will that they want. Sometimes you have to go away and think about a question that we might have asked you. Sometimes clients stall on things like guardianship, or, dare I say, it might be worth speaking to each other about which grandparents you're going to name first, for example.
Okay.
But these are the things that are really important because these are things that stop an argument at a really, really difficult time. You can imagine two sets of grandparents both bereaved and trying to fight over who's going to look after your children, you've probably got a favourite grandparent. And let's be honest, it's always your wife's. I don't know how much trouble I'm going to get in for that.
So much trouble.
But here's the point, and I know I'm being a little bit facetious. It's your choice.
Because
So
it might not be the grandparents, might it? It might be friends, it might be, you know, sister or brother. Or...
Sometimes a client will say to us, yeah, it's going to be my mum and dad. And even as they say it, they're then like, they start to think about, well, mum's getting on a bit, my dad's hip's gone. And actually they're worn out when they have the kids for a weekend. And, you know, and then it ends up being a... but it's personal choice, and this is the whole point. Because
even if you're a godparent, and we're godparent to so many children, I was like, oh, my goodness, we'll have to get flats. You know,
we'd need a block of flats.
We are godparent to so many children, but that gives you no rights at all.
It's not a natural progression, is it?
Legally binding.
There's no legal status to being a godparent. It's a religious position. If you've ever had to sign a document for a child who's in school, you can only sign as two people. It always says parent/guardian. So you've either got parental responsibility, i.e. you're a mum or dad, or you've got a guardianship, which sadly is, you know, being given to you through the courts. But it's one of those things that I don't think is widely spoke about in a will, because you think about a will and you do automatically think, oh, it's just where I leave my money, but it's so much more than that.
Yeah.
It's what you leave your responsibility. You can pass your parental responsibility on through that as well. The key thing is when you make your own will, it's yours, and you know what you've got, you know what you want to happen, and you know your family. Not only does the government will not know any of that, frankly, it doesn't care because it can't. So don't pass away and make things worse by dying intestate. Please just put a will in place, because your family won't regret that you did that, and neither will you. No.
It's honestly, it's like your final gift to your loved one. It's one of the best things
and to you
can
I think,
do. Yeah.
Because when you've done it, that weight will be lifted,
wouldn't
and then you just forget about it.
Just be the worst. And I don't know what happens when you pass, but I like to think that Dad's looking down on us. And wouldn't it be the worst if you're told, or your family, you told them what, you were leaving this to them, and that it was all going to be split fairly, or, you know, perhaps there's a relative in the family, a son or a daughter that has been away from the family, and you don't actually want to split the monies and things with them. You've told everybody, and then you're looking down and you didn't get that will legally written, and that government will has fallen into place, and sadly everything that they know you wanted to happen isn't happening, because it's completely out of their control. You can't think it's okay because we've told everybody. The government
doesn't work
will.
Like that.
If you haven't written a legally binding will, you have got a will, and it is that government will that will fall into place. And how can one will be right for absolutely everybody?
And remember, it's just a series of yes/no questions that doesn't take anyone's personal circumstances into account. You can see, we'll run you through that again. It's called the Rules of Intestacy. We call it the government will. And again, it's just a 100-year-old policy that has to be in place. Something has to be there.
If you look at the bottom right there, the terrifying thing is everything you worked hard for could just end up going back to the government, back to the Crown as well.
The final question.
And you might have a charity, if you've got family members, you might have a charity you want it to go to.
The government will never fails.
You might have a best friend.
No, it never fails. So that's the final question. Back to the government.
Though I always say it's not right for us. Actually, it doesn't work for us. There has to be something that falls into place, and it is the government will. And though it's not what you want to happen, it is what is going to happen.
It's perfectly reasonable to think it's ridiculous that you've been together for 35 years, built a life together, and that if you passed away without making your own will, the government will goes, yeah, we don't care about any of that.
No.
There's zero provision for unmarried partners. Zero. You're either married in a civil partnership, or you're not. And that's where I think my frustration still lies today, is you still hear the sort of murmurings of, well, we're common law husband and wife, or we've lived together for a certain period, so we've got certain rights, and unfortunately that's just not true. It's not the case. You are either married in a civil partnership or you're not, and if you're not, there's no provision between partners. So well done for your 35 years, but the government will says no.
Next.
Next
Question, please.
I mean, when you're already devastated, and then you've got to sort out, what am I going to do for the rest of my life, because what we thought was going to happen isn't going to happen. And we didn't realise that until we met Simpler Law, and obviously then got our will in place. But if you are married, if you're married with children from different relationships, oh my goodness, it just goes down bloodline. So if one of you dies first, if you haven't written a will, when that second parent dies, it will only go down their bloodline. So the first person that died, their children, even though you see yourselves as one big family, they're sort of disinherited. They won't get anything because it'll only go down the surviving partner's bloodline, which is, again, sounds crazy, but that's what happens. And that's why you don't want that government will. Whatever situation you're in, if you're a single person, it isn't going to be what you wanted to happen.
Everybody needs a will.
With everything you've worked so hard for.
And Simpler Law make it so affordable with these
so
exceptional offers that we've got for you. It's also lasting powers of attorney that we'll be talking about in just a couple of moments. So the will itself, the suggested price, even at the suggested price of $249, I think that's a great price.
We expected it to be thousands, didn't we?
The offer price at $124, brilliant, but an extra 20% discount brings it down to less than £100 to write a legally binding will, and then it's all in place. £99. You can even split the cost if you want to. 4 interest-free monthly instalments, $24.75 on your first of 4 interest-free payments there. Now, we are going to talk about lasting power of attorney again in just a couple of moments. We'll explain exactly what that means. £349 is the price it should be there. The offer price of $239, but with that extra 20% off, and that goes across all of the offers we're talking about tonight, comes down to £189, and that's just $47.25 on your first of 4 interest-free payments. But the biggest saving of all is if you go for will and lasting power of attorney. You're saving more than you're spending there. Massive discount. With that extra 20% off, it comes down to £249, and that's just $62.25 on your first of 4 payments there.
Splitting that cost to those 4 payments, I think, just makes it so affordable as well. When you think about how much you spend on coffee or a night out or a takeaway, and this is money so well spent. Now, the other wonderful thing is you do need to get in contact. I would say right now, you have got 3 working days to get these deals, but life just gets in the way. If we don't do things straight away, we forget. If I don't write it down, I've forgotten. If I don't do it right now, it's gone. So please get in contact, either by going onto the website, so really easy, simplerlaw.co.uk/shop on TV. You can jump onto the phones right now. The team are there till 3 a.m.
Yeah, and you don't need any documents, you don't need anything with you, you're just securing those offers. So 0333 600 2600, as Hayley was saying, team there in the call centre right through until 3 a.m. If you are watching on the +1 channels, remember you can go on the website or you can text the word WILL, W-I-L-L, to 66777, and that texting service is the easiest way. But you can go through our website as well, shopontv.co.uk, scroll down to our on-screen partners, click on the Simpler Law logo that you see there, and it'll take you straight through to the offers and fill in that simple form that you see there.
And it is a really easy form. Even I can fill that in. It's very simple. It's answers that you will know. And actually, if you scroll a little bit up, if you do forget how to get in contact, the phone number is there, and that text in the word will to 66777 is so easy. I don't know if any of you are like us, because we talk for a living, and you've perhaps noticed that, and you probably think, oh, I wish they'd stop. When we're at home, we don't want to answer the phone, we don't want to answer the door, do we?
No.
We're like, I don't want to
talk to each other.
Oh, we're like, you answer it. You go.
That's how you've had a successful relationship for 35 years, right?
Okay. Talk at work.
So that text, I do all the competitions, and this is a competition you've definitely won because you've secured all those prices. I lose all those competitions because they don't get back in touch.
Yeah.
This is not a competition, but you will be a winner because you know you've secured those prices, and that's all you need to do. Text the word will, and it's done.
And it's just that first step,
because we're so rubbish sometimes at actually taking that
to
first step.
And that was the same with us with our will. We just didn't get round to it.
Yeah.
We thought it was going to be a fortune, and we just didn't take that first step, didn't get round to it.
It's the most difficult thing to do, and then people wonder when they've been through the process why they put it off for so long. But, you know, it's not an exciting thing in your mind, is it? You know, if we stopped everyone outside and said, here's £99, do you want to go out for a meal or do you want to make a will? We'd all choose a meal, understandably. But that's because we don't necessarily fully understand what a will can do for us at this point, how important it is, and it really is. I count myself very lucky that I found this profession, because we get to run a nice business with nice people, but genuinely help every single person that we write a will for, because we know every single person that's made a will, that's made a difference to them and the family. They might not know it because they've never had to experience the rules of intestacy. But sometimes, if you could, I wish sometimes we could just bring a client to our office for a day and say, this is what's happening to families where someone's passed away without a will, and this is what happens to families where someone's passed away with a will. Both families are sad they've lost a loved one. This one's not so bad because they've already taken care of everything, even down to things like funeral wishes. You know, we've had people say, I want these cars, I want this music playing. We had two brothers arguing over what music a mother wanted at a funeral, and they were really falling out about it, and she'd put the song list with her will.
Fantastic.
And never guess what?
They were both wrong.
They were both wrong, which was kind of nice.
Which made it much better.
Yeah, of course it did, and you know, and the tension sort of faded away in that situation. But look, making a will is really selfless, but is incredibly, it's powerful. It's powerful. You're doing something amazing for your family. You just won't know how amazing it is. Yeah. But your family will never, ever, ever regret, and neither will you putting a will in place.
And it could be your family, it could be friends you want to leave things to. It doesn't have to be money. It could be what you want to happen to your dog or your cat, what you'd want to happen to the kids, who you'd want to look after the children, or what age you want them to inherit. You know at 18 they'd waste it all, and you want to split. And you can do all of that with a will. You can do so much. And you're seeing that price for the will on your screen right now. It's £99. We always do a great price when Simpler Law come to us here on Shop on TV. You do get a special offer always, but you have got an extra 20% off, but only for the next 3 working days. So do get in contact. I would do it now, because if you're like us, you won't forget.
Yeah, and it's not just the discount on the wills, it's also on lasting power of attorney. That extra 20% comes off. So a power of attorney comes down to £189. Now, if you've heard the term, you might have seen it on, there's been a lot of TV shows, it's been a lot in the papers, lasting power of attorney, people talking about how important it is. Well, if they've heard the term, Georgia, at home, and they're not quite sure what it is, can you explain lasting power of attorney?
Yeah, so when a lasting power of attorney document, it's a document which allows you to pick somebody that you trust to make day-to-day decisions for you in the instance that you lose capacity.
And when we talk about losing capacity, I think it's important to explain what that can be as well.
Yeah, I think the most common one, and you know, your default position when you think of losing capacity is thinking to old age, maybe having dementia, for example, but it's not necessarily the case. It could occur in the instance of a serious illness, an accident, or even a stroke.
So there's so many different reasons that capacity is taken away from you as such. So a lasting power of attorney, and there are 2 types, aren't there, to talk about, Georgia?
There are. You've got your property and financial affairs and your health and welfare document as well.
So property and affairs, and you might think, well, it's my husband, it's my wife, it's my loved one, it's my mum, it's my dad. Of course I'll be able to do these things. I look after them now. Of course I can go and sort out their pension, their benefits, their allowance. I could sell the house if we needed to, and, you know, if they needed to go into a care home. But actually, you've got no chance of doing that.
No, you've got absolutely no rights at all. It's like accessing a bank account. Only you can access your bank account unless there is somebody with authority with a lasting power of attorney.
But even now, I always thought, you know, everybody knows that I look after mum's, you know.
Yeah, you have that presumption again, don't you?
So it'd be fine. Everybody knows that I've got my mum's best heart, you know, things that are interest at heart sort of thing. But sadly, even now, when I take her to the bank, and I took her to the bank not that long ago, and mum was tired, so I sat her in a chair and I went to the counter, and I had to then go and, because they wouldn't speak to me, and all we wanted was paying in slips. It wasn't like I was trying to take money out.
It is
but
right,
they wouldn't deal with me. They would only deal with mum.
Yeah, right. We'd all be furious, wouldn't we? I'd be furious if I sent someone up to the counter at the bank, and they let them access my account without checking with me. You'd be like, what are you doing? And unfortunately, that's the position that people don't quite think about, because if we can't access our loved ones' accounts and deal with the institutions where they're named on an account, whilst they are fit and well, why do we think, who's given us that idea that when they're suddenly incapacitated, so they become vulnerable and protected, why do we think that all those barriers are then lifted? So it's like me going to the bank now and saying, oh, my wife Jean is perfectly healthy, but I'd like to access her money, please. And I'm going, I'm sorry, you can't. And then going, oh, actually, she's just lost capacity. Bless her, she's just been diagnosed with dementia. Yeah. So, oh, that, well, in which case, that's okay. And of course, that's not how it works.
It's the opposite.
If at all possible, she's even more protected now because she's a vulnerable person. Yeah. So, and that's what catches couples out, certainly. But even if you're not in a relationship, there must be someone that you think about, that you want to step into your shoes.
Someone you trust.
And this is, again, the selfless thing for the people around you, but actually a lasting power of attorney is more for you, because you know it's the people that you trust that are going to be stepping into your shoes and not only dealing with your finances, but as we'll get on to, dealing with day-to-day decisions about how you're cared for, even down to medical treatment, life-sustaining treatment even, because when you make a lasting power of attorney, you're called the donor. So you can donate your power, but when you make a lasting power of attorney, you're choosing who you donate that power to. Without a lasting power of attorney, again, unfortunately, all bets are off. You don't know what's going to happen and who's going to step into what shoes.
And that means financially, you don't know what's going to happen, sort of money-wise, or pension-wise, or all those sort of things. But actually, when we came to you with my mum for lasting power of attorney, and we came for the financial, we thought that's all there was. When we sat down and chatted, because that's exactly what you do, you then mentioned there was a second lasting power of attorney, and to me, possibly more important, or definitely as important, because I think this is a much more impersonal and things that I think would be so important to me if a loved one was really poorly and couldn't look after themselves.
Well, exactly, yeah. So that's the health and welfare lasting power of attorney. But, we see instances every single day where, my mum, for example, a couple of years ago, she felt really, really poorly, and she actually temporarily did lose capacity because of that.
Right.
And luckily we had a health and welfare lasting power of attorney at the ready, but without that document, it would have been incredibly difficult to help her, because yes, you can go with this to hospital and you can sit there, but you can't do anything for her.
No, it's her decision, isn't it? Without a lasting power of attorney, you've got no power at all.
And you mentioned that guy in hospital who had the brain injury.
Yes, I heard this it was on a television programme, and he went into hospital with a brain injury. It was something really unusual, and he had a big operation. And he was then in that situation where he couldn't say that he wanted to go home, and they actually said to his wife that she couldn't take him home because she didn't have lasting power of attorney, and he wasn't able to say,
didn't have the capacity to
I want to go home, and she wanted him to go home.
We never need these documents until we need them. And even when we talk about things like health and welfare, I think you're right, Hayley, when you said they're as important as each other. They do obviously very distinct things. Money makes the world go round. It's naive for us to not think that. So even when we're incapacitated, the institutions where money's involved will be sympathetic for about 3 seconds, and then people still want bills paying and things like that. Money still needs to move around. When it comes to health and welfare, you'd argue that as the individual that's lost capacity, that's going to be more important to them, because that's what matters to them every single day. How they're cared for, where they live, even down to what they eat. And even we talked about excluding people in a will. What if that person who's incapacitated had made it absolutely clear that they never wanted to see or speak to a person again?
Yes.
That person finds out they're in a home and present themselves to the home. So there's all these things to think about. And of course, I myself realise when you sort of list out what you wear, what you eat, that it sounds a little bit trivial, but it's far from trivial if it's not you making those decisions when it's taken away.
If you've got a loved one is a vegetarian, a loved one loves to have their nails polished. My auntie Cora loved her nails polished. My best friend was in a really serious accident in her 40s, so it's never too early to have a lasting power of attorney. And she's a vegetarian. She loved certain clothes. If she couldn't listen to take that, there's certain things that are so important to her.
So important.
And it would break your heart if you went into a home and the nails weren't done or the hair was, and that was something that meant so much to them. Because even though they're poorly, you still want them to be
them.
Well cared for. Well, exactly. And you still want them to have a choice.
Yeah.
And it's already a difficult enough time, and the last thing you want is to see them not have those things that make them happy.
With the lasting power of attorney, they maintain a voice. because they donate their voice
That's
to
a
people that
great
they trust.
description, yeah.
They maintain a voice, so they've still got a say. Without that, they just go into the care system. I'm not being critical of the care system. We all know how things are overstretched and there's good and bad in everything. But if you want to maintain a voice, then you have to donate it to someone. That's why lasting powers of attorney is so important.
Actually, on that list that we showed you, the health and welfare and the financial, at the bottom there's a paragraph. And when you read that paragraph, it's exactly what lasting power of attorney is all about. Essentially, you choose someone you trust to manage your affairs, and in the eyes of the institutions and companies they deal with, they become you. It's so important.
That's spot on,
It is
that, yeah.
so important.
Yeah.
And, you know, whether you're looking at the financial, whether you're looking at health and welfare, we decided to do both because we thought they was just as important as each other. I think the only time you hear of lasting power of attorney, when you hear about someone's story and it was too late and it was out of their control and then they had to go through the government, it cost loads of money, it took forever
Court
to try and
protection.
sort, you know, the whether it's bills or sort out have some control of what home they go into. Honestly, it's so important, and it's so easy, obviously, to get in touch and to get these great prices tonight, because you've got 3 working days to get this deal, but do it now because you'll forget, won't you? 3 days goes in a flash.
Life will get in the way if you don't do it
Absolutely.
now.
Yeah, definitely.
And so simple. If you don't want to speak to anyone, simplerlaw.co.uk/shop on TV. You can go via the website. The team are on the phones until 3 a.m. and that's 0333 600 2600. The thing I love is just texting.
Yeah, you don't have to speak to anyone, you don't need any documentation with you. It's just about securing those offers. So if you text if you've got your phone in your hand right now, just text the word will, WILL, to 66777, and that's whether you want a will or lasting power of attorney or both.
And the great thing is, all you're doing right now, you don't need any information, you're just securing those prices. And that means even if you're going away perhaps for a couple of weeks, you've secured the prices, the team will get in touch with you and you'll say, well, actually, I can't properly talk to you for 2 weeks. They'll sort out a date and a time that's right for you to sit down and chat. And it is a sit down and chat. Don't be frightened of this. I know me and Mum were so worried. So simple, so easy. And you'll be amazed how quick as well, but they will go at your pace. You're never rushed, you're never thinking, oh, I shouldn't have asked that question. I was so relaxed. I'm never relaxed. I knew I could ask absolutely anything and get exactly what you wanted to happen, and that's so important. And it is so important, and sadly, whatever situation you're in, whether it is the will, whether it's a lasting power of attorney, if you haven't done things legally binding, it's taken out of your control completely. And we're going to go back to wills. Lasting power of attorney is so important. But a will, everybody needs a will. Well, actually, everyone's got one. Yeah. Did you know that? And we didn't. We just knew that everybody knew that what was mine was Sean's, what was Sean's was mine, and it'd be fine. But that's not the situation.
There is a government will that falls into place if you don't write your own, and this just
legally binding will. If you haven't written it, legally binding. This is what happens, and I always say we fall at the first hurdle because they say, "Are you married?" and we're not.
No. And if you're not, it goes down the process that you can see there. Just a series of yes, no questions. It doesn't take anything else into consideration.
No, if you've got children from different partners, if one parent, if one of you dies first, and it goes then to your partner, your husband, your wife, it then sadly goes down their bloodline, and your children, though you were one big family, disinherit. And you can see as you go down the line, you hear stories, don't you? And suddenly you think, how did that end up going to that long distance second, third cousin in Australia? They'd never met them. And this is why, because the government will falls into place.
And that's all because you haven't written anything down. You can write down your wishes in your will, but not just about monetary things.
No.
With a will, you can do so much more.
It might be your pets, it might be what you want to happen to your children, what age you want your children to inherit, it might be a family heirloom, and actually you might be completely on your own. You've got no relatives. Do you want it to go eventually to the government, or is there a best friend you'd like, or is there a charity you'd like to leave everything to? And don't think you haven't got anything, because you've probably got a car, you've probably got a house, you've probably your rings, your wedding rings, jewellery. There's always something, and it could mean so much to somebody, and it's so important that what you've worked so hard for goes to the people you want it to go to.
We're not just going to be talking about wills tonight. We're working directly with Simpler Law, and Simpler Law are experts in the field when it comes to wills, but also lasting power of attorney. So if you've heard that term before, but you're not quite sure what it means, we'll explain that as we go through the show and explain why it's so important to have that as well. The deals, the offers that Simpler Law have for us at the moment, well, you can see these are time-limited offers that we've got for you.
They are, and they're great because you've got an extra 20% off, which we don't always have. They've allowed us this deal again. Will they allow it after this? I don't know. So grab it, because you have got... I was blown away. I thought it would be so expensive to write a will, thousands. And actually, we speak to people that say, well, I did spend thousands on a will and lasting power of attorney. And, you know, when we tell them we do these shows, and like, you are kidding, those prices are amazing. So at full price, £249, great deal. What you've worked hard for, what you want to happen to it all, it's going to go to the people you want it to go to. So that is money well spent. But our normal show special is £124, but you have got the extra 20% off, only for the next 3 working days. So just secure the price tonight so you don't forget. £99, under £100, and split that cost. It makes it so affordable. £24.75. 4 payments, and that's probably less than you spend on coffee. How often do you pop into the supermarket for a newspaper or a pint of milk, and all of a sudden you've spent £50? You think, well, I haven't got a meal even. And so honestly, it's money well spent. When you split the cost, it's so affordable as well. Lasting power of attorney, I mean, we got a great price there.
Yeah, and we will go into more detail about lasting power of attorney if you're not quite sure what that means. It should have been suggested retail price of £349. On our regular offer price, £239, but that extra 20% goes across all the deals that we've got for you. So £189 is the price it comes down to, and with those 4 interest-free payments, £47.25 on your first of 4
We can't
payments
get a takeaway for that.
No, we can't. I don't know what's happened. £47.25 on your first of 4 interest-free payments. But the biggest saving of all is if you go for a will and lasting power of attorney together, should be almost £600. The offer price is going to be £315. But that comes down to £249 with that extra 20% discount. And that's £62.25 on your first of 4 interest-free payments. Now, the first 250 people to take advantage of the offers will also get this book. Now, this book is worth £25, and this is called What My Family Should Know. Basically, you record everything in one place, from things like you would think about, like your assets, your pensions, your bank account details, things such as that, but also things like your digital accounts. It could be things like your burglar alarm codes, your life insurance policies, all in one place. It could be details of your tablet or your computer.
Yeah, you might now have vital information, emails on your tablet. It might be really sentimental photos or videos that you know are on mum and dad's, or your brothers or your sisters, or that you want to keep. But if you haven't got that number to actually unlock the phone or the tablet, you can't get on to that phone or tablet. And there's a reason this book was put together, isn't there?
Yeah, it was sort of born out of our estate administration team, really, because we act as professional executors for a lot of our clients as well when they ask us to help administer their estate. And one of the first jobs an executor's got is to gather the estate together. So what did the person that passed away, what did they have? And what sort of came out of it was a little bit scary, truthfully, because obviously we've got certain tools that a layperson has, where we can do estate searches and find things that perhaps a layperson couldn't. And what came to light is believed in the UK that there's £5 billion of pension pots that have gone unclaimed.
£5 billion?
£5 billion. £2 billion of life insurance policies that have never been claimed on, so paid up policies that just haven't been claimed. And about 850 million just sat in bank accounts that, again, has never been found. And it got me thinking at the time, I'm thinking, well, if my dad hadn't taken his pension and he'd passed away, would I have known how many pensions he actually did have? Because I was trying to think, I know he was a steel worker in Sheffield, but I know he had several jobs, and how many of those jobs, and you realise that you don't actually know. I dare say if I'd have asked my dad at the time, he wouldn't have known neither.
No.
So the thing about the book is it does just help you take stock. It's been really, really well received. But interestingly, things the more personal things as well, not just the finance. You hit the nail on the head with things like photographs and videos, because it's a digital age now. You know, we've got books that were passed down from my grandparents that still creak and crunch and are a little bit yellowy, and you know, Whitby 1976 written on the bottom of the Polaroid thing. That's less and less now. So we're passing on these digital vaults, but if we lose access to that, then we lose access to it, and that's quite sad. So yeah, it's been really, really well received. And as you said, the first 250 people that secure a will or a lasting power of attorney today get it absolutely free.
Brilliant.
So that's why it's so important to get in contact right now. Be one of those 250, and it's so easy to get in contact. You can either go via the website, via the phones, or you can text. So take a little look. I would say take a quick photo of this, or actually just do this right now. Go onto the website, simplylaw.co.uk/shop on TV. How easy is that? And you've secured all those prices. Or if you do want to speak to someone, you can ask a couple of questions, but you don't need any information. All you need to know is you want to do your will or you want to do your lasting power of attorney. The team are on the phone until 3 a.m.
Yeah, right through till the 3 a.m. deadline. 0333 600 2600 is the phone number if you want to call the call centre. If you're watching on our +1 channels, you can go to the website or you can text the word will. And this is always the most popular on these shows. WILL to 66777. If you sat there with your phone in your hand, it's just about taking that first step.
I mean, awfully, I think nearly 23 hours of 24, we've got our phone in our hands, haven't we? It's right there. Just text will. And what you've done is secured the prices. You haven't had to speak to anybody. You haven't had any awkward conversations. And the great thing is Simply Law make everything so easy. You don't even need to know any vital information. When you sit down with the team member that you're put with and you stay with that team member, they become a friend, really. They've got all the questions, and though you don't realise it right now, you have got all the answers. They make it so simple. And of course, you're writing that legally binding will or that legally binding lasting power of attorney, and you're doing it correctly because you have such knowledge in the company.
You can also use the QR code that you see on screen, or you can go straight to our website, shopontv.co.uk. Scroll down, you'll see our on-screen partners about halfway down there. Click on the Simpler Law logo and it'll take you through to those exclusive offers once again. And just fill in that really simple form. And as Hayley always says, if you change your mind, if you're going for the will initially and then you want to add in lasting power of attorney, we will honour those
You
prices.
might write at the top of the show, yeah, we need a will, and you've got in contact, you've said, I want to do the will, can I secure that price? And then when you listen to lasting power of attorney, you think, oh, well, actually, should have done both, shouldn't I? I've slipped up there. As long as you get in contact, you'll secure all of those prices. So whatever option you decide to go for, you can get the deal that you see on your screen. That extra 20% off only for the next 3 working days. Do it now, because you will forget. We still haven't had our carpet done. And my sister's home from America, and we had her around for dinner for 3 nights, and we made her come in the dark so she didn't see the stairs. She's like, oh, it's lovely. We're like, yeah, come in the kitchen.
Romantic lighting. Didn't want to see the carpet.
It's not that we can't afford a carpet. We just don't get round to speaking to somebody or getting into the shop to actually do it. Get round to it, because once you've done it, it's just that peace of mind.
First step.
And even if you can't talk to the team for a couple of weeks because you're going away, that's fine. When they get in contact, say, well, I can't speak until so-and-so. You've secured the price, and then you can all sit down and chat when the time is right.
We're not alone. Ian and Georgia are with us from Simpler Law, who are experts in the field when it comes to wills and lasting power of attorney. That's what they specialise in. And Ian, I think it's really important to point out time and time again that everyone needs a will, don't they?
If you want your last act on planet Earth to be yours, then you need to make a will. Because sadly, unfortunately, there's a default position, which is this government will. So every adult in the UK basically has a government will sat there waiting for them if they don't get around to making a will themselves. And there is no grey area, there's no exception to that rule. You either pass away with your own will that you've made that's valid and is all about you, or you pass away without your own will, in which case the government will step in.
And that's one will for absolutely everybody.
It's one set of rules, yeah. What you can see on the screen there is what the government will does, which is ask a series of yes-no questions of the person that's passed away. And it always starts with the marital status. So you'll see at the top there, it says, are you married or in a civil partnership? It doesn't say, have you been in a relationship for 35 years? It doesn't say, are you loved up? It doesn't say, are you cohabiting? It only cares about your marital status, and that is a yes or no question. Are you married or in a civil partnership? And even today, we still hear things like, oh, I think we're common law husband and wife.
Yes, we thought that.
Yeah, I don't even know where that phrase originated from, truthfully, but it's not a legal status. It's not a marriage. Newsflash, you're not common law husband and wife. There is no such thing. So you are either married or in a civil partnership, or you're not, and that's the first question. And then depending on the makeup of your family and what your bloodline looks like, depends on where your estate goes. At which point, none of your family or loved ones have any say in this, because you've passed away without a will, so the government will steps in as the default position.
So even if you've told your family everything that you want to happen, they can't control any of it because it goes to that government will.
All you've done is give them a wish, and nothing about that wish is legally binding.
That's
in
probably
fact,
even worse.
You took the words out of my mouth, because you then know for a fact that what's happening is not what your parents wanted. So making a will is incredibly selfless, because you're doing it for the people that you leave behind, but it's also quite a cathartic process as well. No one ever gets to the end of a consultation with us and says, oh, I wish I'd not done that. It's quite the opposite. When they get to the end, the reactions vary. In some cases, a huge weight has been lifted because they've realised that they've been able to unburden something. In other cases, it's just like, oh, I'm glad I got that out of the way. But in every single case, when you get to the end of the consultation, every single client says, I'm glad I did that.
Great.
So another thing that I always like to say, certainly on these TV shows, is no one ever regrets putting a will in place, but your family might regret that you didn't, because the consequences of passing away with the government will, in a lot of cases, can be quite dreadful, frankly.
You often hear about families falling out after someone's passed, and I would guess that's the reason why, because what they know should be happening isn't happening because the government will's fallen into place.
We always like to see the best in people, but you imagine, we don't know how grief is going to affect people, so that's an unknown. So when someone's bereaved, emotions are incredibly high. You throw money or anything sentimental into that mix as well, and it's not going the way that you want it to. And sadly, that's why it's a bereavement without a will is one of the single biggest reasons for a breakup in family relationships. And it's understandable, because emotions are so high. You might not be behaving rationally. You might say something you didn't really mean to say, but it's all because you know that what's happening isn't what your parents or your loved one would have wanted to happen. And all of this is fixable. The reason we do these shows, none of us have got any money and none of us have got any time, but we can stop and buy a coffee every now and then, and we can scroll on our phones every now and then. Well, if you forego that coffee once a week and you don't go on your phone for an hour, we can honestly fix everything. That's how easy it is to do. The hardest thing to do is pick up the phone and text the word will to 66777. But that's all you need to do tonight.
Because the government will, it can't be right for anyone. It's not right for us because we're not married. So even though we have been together 35 years and everybody knows what Sean is mine, what mine is Sean's, that would not be the case, because if we didn't have a will, the government will would fall into place. But even if you're married, or even if you're an individual person, everybody needs a will. And especially if you're married with children from different relationships, which so many people are now, they see themselves as one big family.
Yeah.
But again, the government will not see that at all.
Doesn't care about that. You could be on your second marriage and have been married considerably longer than you both were in your first marriage, but you may have had children to that first relationship. So you might not have children together, or you may have children together, but you've got children from a previous relationship. So effectively, in that blended family, dynamic family, whatever term you want to give it, there are two bloodlines. There isn't just one bloodline. And unfortunately, what that means is there's a bit of a lottery going on if you don't make your own will. Because by not making your own will, you're saying when you pass away, you're accepting the government will. The government will is going to basically send it down the survivor's bloodline. And what I mean by that is, forgive the finger puppets, but if Mr. passes away first and he's got a child from a previous relationship, everything of his will go to his wife. When she passes away, everything of hers will go to her child from a previous relationship, to the exclusion of his, because it's followed the survivor's bloodline. So we call it sideways disinheritance, because it's not gone down your blood, it's not gone down the deceased bloodline, it's gone down someone else's. So whilst they might see themselves as a blended family, the law doesn't. the law sees two separate bloodlines. And everyone's up in arms at things like that, because like, it's not fair, it doesn't make any sense, it's irrational. We've heard it all. And sometimes people will think the best of the children as well and think, well, I'm sure even if that did happen, sort of disbelieving that that is what's going to happen, I promise you, sadly, that is what happens. They'll think, well, the kids will sort it out amongst themselves.
That's way too much pressure, isn't it?
Oh, there could be tax implications involved in that as well. And it isn't always just about the kids. You know, sometimes it's the kids' partners, the husbands or wives.
Other influences.
It's not just about them. And I think you hit the nail on the head, actually. It's a lot of pressure on that person that doesn't need to be there. Yeah.
At that time.
Whereas if you both took, a little bit of time out of your day, you send a text tonight, Will, 66777, we speak to you for a few minutes, that can all be fixed. And I don't think I'm being flippant with that, Georgia, am I? This is what we do every single day. And the relief that can create for some of our clients, and we know we've done an amazing thing. And when I say we, actually, it's you that's done the amazing thing. We've just facilitated it because it's your wills, and now you've made sure that you're both going to inherit, and you've made sure that both of the children are going to inherit, because by making your own will, you've now removed the government will.
Yeah. And the other great thing is, I think, Georgia, you learn things that you didn't even realise. And I know there was a story, and it was a lady, and she was in a new relationship. She'd been married, she was in a new relationship. She'd been with her new partner, they'd got a house together, and she'd been with her new partner longer than she had been with her husband, but she hadn't divorced her husband. So she didn't realise until she sat down and chatted that had she have died, what would have happened with her money, what she owned?
It wouldn't have gone to her partner, it would have gone to her husband because they hadn't finalised the divorce.
So she was separate, well, not living with him anymore, but they were still married.
Yeah.
So it would automatically go to the...
Automatically passes because it's the
because
first thing they look at is the
government
spouse.
Law says, are you married?
Question.
It's the first question.
And some people think, it all sounds really technical and complicated, but actually, it's a question. If she'd have passed away, it's like, are you married in a civil partnership? And it's not asking, are you separated? It's like, and the answer would have been, yes, still married.
Yeah.
And that's it. Okay, well, the first 322,000 goes to your spouse.
Gosh.
So, and look, people aren't expected to know this in the same way I have no idea how an internal combustion engine works.
Exactly, yeah.
We only need to know what we need to know. But the reason we do these shows is we do want people to understand that this government will is real. It does exist. It's not a myth.
Yeah.
And if you've been told by someone that it's okay, just do yourself a favour and just ask yourself why someone told you it was okay or why you think it's going to be okay. Because the government will doesn't care about you. It's just a default position to make sure there is something that will distribute your estate when you pass away. It's not desirable at all. And sadly, it won't be okay because out of the 1/3 of a million wills that we've written, we've never written one that's anything like the rules of intestacy.
I bet not.
Because it's not bespoke.
Everyone's different.
The rules of intestacy don't even appoint an executor, so you don't even know who's going to step forward and deal with it.
Gosh.
So making a will is really, really selfless, but incredibly powerful. Please do it for your loved ones, if not for yourself.
And a legally binding will as well. Some people you might be watching thinking, oh, I saw you can get the templates and I could write my own will.
Yeah.
And sadly, though you can, and you still pay for those,
Yeah.
you sadly can do it wrong. Because like you say, you wouldn't mend your own car if you didn't know what was under the bonnet. Doing your own will, you can word things wrong.
Yeah,
and without
terminology, we
knowing,
don't know,
and
yeah.
you know what you want, and you haven't written it correctly.
I think one of the biggest things for me, there's nothing to give you advice, and unless you live and breathe this, we've got people with industry-specific qualifications right the way up to STEP, which I don't expect everyone to know what it is, but that's the highest qualification that you can get. You know, this is all we do. Our consultants, every single day, their job is to help a client get the will that's right for them and to give them best advice. And our advice is insured for up to £5 million. So if we make a mistake, you're covered. And our consultant might be doing their 1000th consultation, but they don't lose sight of the fact it won't be your first and only time that you do it. So we hold everyone's hand and make sure they're happy with everything that we do. If you're using a template, it's not going to give you any advice. How do you know that you're not creating a tax liability? How do you know that you are actually making sure that you get all the available allowances for tax, for example? Have you fully understood the difference between first death and second death if you're making any specific gifts? And
So
what I'm
just that mentioning, and we wouldn't even know what that means.
no, and I am conscious that saying that it might put someone off speaking to us now. But the reason I've said that is we don't talk like that when we speak to you. But the fact of the matter is, it is really easy to mess up a template will. In the same way, it'd be really easy for me to break an engine if I tried to service it, because I'm not fully qualified. Our staff are, they're highly trained, they give best advice, and more importantly, we're fully insured. If we make a mistake, you and your beneficiaries are covered for up to £5 million. And touch wood, because of the way that we do it, we've never made a mistake. Every single document that we write is independently compliance checked by our compliance team. So we make sure that what we do is 100% right every single time. And in fairness, we'll only send you your document when you've told us you're 100% happy with the instructions you've given us. With a template, who's checking it for you? How do you know? Is it signed, dated and witnessed correctly? So we do all of that for you. And to be honest with you, for not much more than the cost of a template, truthfully.
But the fact it's less than £100, and with your will as well, the other thing to point out is it's not just about money, it's about so many other things as well, isn't it, Georgia? You can do so much more with your will.
Yes, absolutely. You know, it's a very common thing. People think, oh, money in my bank account or my house.
Yeah.
But it covers a myriad of things. It can start with funeral wishes, right down to who you want to inherit, when you want to inherit, or alternatively, who you don't want to inherit.
Yes.
You know, which is important to think about, because sometimes there are those people that we wouldn't necessarily want to receive anything from our estate. But it also allows you to be flexible with who inherits and when. So, for example, you can put age stipulations in for children, so they don't receive a load of money at 18 and then potentially have a really, really good time and then not have anything left.
Not have anything left. Yeah.
Why would you begrudge an 18-year-old a really good time, Joe? That's
I
all.
know, they wouldn't agree with me.
But you hear about a lot of
Not at
lottery
18.
winners when they get it at 18, they've spent it by
all
the time
gone.
they're 20.
Exactly.
And because we're you know, you might think different if you're 18 and you're watching, but we're not thinking right, I don't think, at 8. We haven't grown up, we haven't lived yet.
We're thinking as an 18-year-old.
Yeah.
But the thing is if you're making a will as a parent, you know your children better than us.
Yes.
So, you know, all we're going to do is give you advice, and we're going to say, look, it's an awful thing to think about, but if you passed away yesterday, you know, and your children are, say, 10 and 8, what age would you like them to inherit? You know, and they tell us, we don't tell them. And, you know, sometimes they will just go, well, they have to inherit at 18, don't we? And we go, no, you can leave it. As soon as we say no, you can put a stipulation that says you can leave it later. Like, oh, later.
Yeah.
And they might say something. Certainly for our John, he's still licking windows. but it is personal preference. I recently saw a picture of me on my 18th birthday. I'm surprised they even had cameras at work back then. But I did giggle to myself because, one, I had no friends at the time, because if I did, they didn't tell me about my mullet or the clothes that I was wearing. Like, why? Why did they let me do that? But I did giggle to myself and think, if I had come into any kind of money, would I have done anything responsible at that age? No. I'd have been following Def Leppard and Kiss round on a world tour or something, which, as you sort of mentioned, would have been great. But then later in life, I might have gone, yeah, I might have been able to have had a bit of a portfolio going there and be financially secure. So, look, we have something called testamentary freedom in the UK, which means we're allowed to make our own will. We're allowed to, you know, choose what happens to our wealth, what we've worked hard for, where it goes. And that extends into even things like, what age do we want our children to inherit? So it's about control. If you pass away with your own will, you're going to control what happens. If you pass away without your own will, the set of government rules is going to control what happens, and frankly doesn't care about you because it can't. It's just a default position.
And some people, their children are their pets. So in a will, you can actually say, you know, who you'd like to look after your pet, or donate perhaps to a dog charity or something.
Or leave money to look after your pet.
Yeah, exactly. It's very similar to guardianship over children. You can also donate that power with a pet as well. You can leave a fund for your pets to be looked after. You know, and there's so many things you can do with it. It's actually a really common one with pets, arguably more so than children. You know, but it's, you know, it is really important to people. Pets are, you know, the most important thing.
I don't think we've had any parents leave a child to the RSPCA rehoming service. Not yet. Might be a few that have tried, but yeah, not yet.
There's so much you can do. I think that's the important thing. When it comes to your will, it's your document. It's exactly what you want it to be. And you don't need to know anything. Your answers are there, and the team will have the questions to put them in place.
And everybody needs a will. So whether you're listening and you're thinking, well, I don't live with anybody, I'm not married, I haven't got children, and perhaps you've got no relatives at all. Where would you like what you've worked so hard for to get? Have you got a charity that you'd really like it to? Have you got a best friend that you wanted? Perhaps someone's really helped you out and looked after you, and you'd love to say thank you to them. Sadly, again, the government will that falls into place won't allow you for that to happen. So whatever was in your head, whatever you wanted, it's not going to happen unless you have a legally binding will. And these are just a few of the actual things that you can do with a will. And Georgia, I mean, that's a short list, but so many things I think that people won't realise they can put into their will.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely not an inclusive list, but, you know, people don't realise what they can do with a will. You know, again, we talked about earlier about the funeral wishes at the start. We've had some absolutely wonderful requests, one of which, you know, turning it into a disco, that was probably my favourite one.
Love it.
You know, to leaving gifts of property, you know, and again, beneficiaries or excluding people, you know.
And that's very common, I think, now. And I think some people would perhaps be a little bit embarrassed of that and think, oh, I don't think I dare say. But actually, that's very common in this world now.
Yeah, absolutely. We see it every single day, and it's like with the whole process. I think the thought of it is always worse than actually doing it. And once you get into it and you actually go through the process, you realise, oh, there was nothing to worry about.
And the fact that it's we say it's a hand-holding service, but once you're assigned that person, they literally talk you through everything you need to know. Remember, today you don't need anything. You don't need any documents. You don't need any answers. It's just a case of getting in touch and securing the offers.
It is, and the offers are incredible. You have got fantastic prices actually at full price, because I thought, and we know of people that have spent thousands of pounds to get a will and lasting power of attorney. So look at the normal prices. So for your will there, £249. That is money well spent. You know, what you've worked so hard for is going to go to the people, or you know, that you want it to go to. So we always have a great deal, and our normal shop on TV price is £124. But you have, for the next 3 working days, but do it now, secure the price today so you don't forget, you will get another 20% off, so £99 is your price, and you can split that price over 4 payments, so £24.75 is the first of those 4 payments, making it so affordable. And if you think what you spend £24.75 on now, coffee, how many coffees would you get for that? Again, it is so important to get that will written, and it is so affordable, and you know you're doing it right with Simpler Law. Lasting power of attorney, and we are going to go into a little bit of detail about that right now. That, again, great price at $349. But you've got an even better deal today.
The offer price was down to $239, but that extra 20% is across all the different deals that we've got for you from Simpler Law. So it comes down to £189. We will explain more detail of lasting power of attorney for you if you're not quite sure what it means. And if you do want to spread the cost interest-free, 4 interest-free payments, $47.25 on your first of 4 payments there. However, if you want the best offer of all, if you go for the will and lasting power of attorney together, just under £600 is the suggested retail price. The offer price should have been $315, but again, you've got that extra 20% off,
which takes it down to $249. It means you save £349. If you've already been in touch and you only said you wanted the will, and then you listen to lasting power of attorney, you think, why didn't I say I'd want both? It's fine. As long as you've secured the prices, you can have whichever deal you want to go for. And that lasting power of attorney and the will should be nearly £600, £249, and splitting the cost, £62.25 is those 4 interest-free payments, which is phenomenal. The first 250 clients as well will get that free book, What My Family Should Know, and that's a book worth £25, which I think anybody from working age should get that book. And that book has got all the vital information when families need to find all these bits and pieces and these letters and all, you know, pensions and hunting everywhere. You've written it all down in a book that just makes it so easy for them to actually think, right, it's all there. You know, they know all about your assets. They also know about important things that you perhaps wouldn't think about now, and things about assets, life insurance and vehicle details. But actually, nowadays, though in the past you'd be looking for letters and you'd be looking for the secret boxes, and my mum's got so many secret boxes, I'll never ever find them all. Lots now is on a tablet, it's on a phone. And if you haven't got the code to unlock that phone or tablet, all that information is lost. No one can find that code for you. So if there's an email you need, or perhaps really personal photographs, or you know there's a video on there and only mum or dad or your brother or sister have got that video, it's gone if you haven't got that number to unlock, and all that information is in that book.
It's all in that one place,
but only the first 250 people get that book. It always disappears. So just get in contact and secure the deal right now, and make sure you've got the prices we're offering you for a start, only available for the next 3 working days, but you get the book as well. And all you're doing is securing the deals. And this is the way to do it. So easy. simplerlaw.co.uk/shop on TV. Make sure you do the /shop on TV to get the prices we're offering tonight. That's via the website. The team are on the phones till 3.
It's 0333 600 2600. If you are watching on the +1 channels, you can still go to the website. You can also text, and texting is the most popular on these shows. It always is. Text the word WILL, WILL to 66777. We've always got our phone in our hand, haven't we? You've probably got your phone in your hand right now, so just text the word WILL, WILL to 66777.
And the great thing is you don't have to talk to anybody. You've done it. You know, it's done. And that's the biggest step, isn't it? It's something.
That first step, yeah.
It's something we're good at putting off or forgetting.
Just not getting round to, I think, a lot of the time.
We don't even do it purposely sometimes, do we? You know you want a will, you know you want lasting power of attorney, but then tomorrow comes, and then, you know, the next day comes, all of a sudden a month has gone, all of a sudden summer's here, all of a sudden it's Christmas again, and one day it will just be too late. And it's no good telling your family, you know, what you want to happen, because sadly, it's taken out of their hands. Unless you've got a legally binding will, the government, you have got a will, the government will fall in place, and that's one will for absolutely everybody, and it won't be what you want to happen, to what you've worked so hard for. So please make sure you get in contact. You can go via our website as well if you're used to using that, and if you go via our website, just scroll down, halfway down it's our partners, and then on there you'll find Simpler Law. Click onto that. Our prices, but remember, only for the next 3 working days. Gives you the details for the phone number as well, and the details for text. But that form, again, you don't need to talk to anybody. It's really easy to fill in. Submit that form, and you've secured the prices. Even if you're going away for the next couple of weeks, don't panic. Secure the deal, and when the team get in touch with you, say, I can't actually sit down and talk about this properly until, you know, a couple of weeks' time, and they'll sort out a date that's right for you.
You've taken that first step, and that's what's so important. So whether it's the wills you're looking at, or whether you're looking at lasting power of attorney, if you change your mind, if you select one and then you change your mind, you want to go for a lasting power of attorney and wills, you'll be able to do that because you've secured the offers. And we are going to talk about lasting power of attorney now, because I think recently lasting power of attorney has been on lots of TV shows.
Loads of things.
It's been in lots of publications, how important it is, even alongside a will. So we are going to talk about that now. And if you're not quite sure what a lasting power of attorney is, we'll explain, or I should say Georgia. You'll explain, if you don't mind, what it actually means.
So a lasting power of attorney is a valid legal document that you can use during your lifetime, which allows you to choose a person who you trust to step into your shoes and make those decisions for you in the event that you lose capacity.
And we always say when you lose capacity, I mean, there's lots of reasons why we can lose capacity, aren't there?
Yes, there are. There are multiple. I think we very much go to a default position when we think about capacity. We think of dementia, old age.
As we get old.
But that's actually quite a common misconception. Whilst, yes, it can happen,
yeah,
it can also be due to illness or serious injury, you know, or even a stroke, for example.
It could just be an accident, couldn't it? Yeah.
Life throwing you a curveball.
Yeah, I think that's the best way to describe it, isn't it? Something comes out of the blue.
Yeah, most people, if they're asked to think about it, just for a little while have been touched by some form of dementia, sadly. You know, either directly or indirectly. People are living longer, so I think that's why Georgia quite rightly says that's the default position. But it isn't just for old age and dementia. And it's strange how many people put it off and leave it until later. And unfortunately, then one day it can be too late. And that's really devastating, because it's like, well, if you'd got in touch a month earlier, we'd have been able to put that in place, because unfortunately when it's too late, it is too late. I was giggling to myself a little bit when you were talking about life getting in the way and not doing things, and I've just realised that a colleague asked me to do something 4 days ago, so I must do that when I...
That's it, you want to write that down?
Yeah.
Write that down.
And do you know why I didn't do it? Because I didn't go in my office and do it. I said, oh yeah, that'll only take a second.
Got distracted.
Yeah, and I'm giggling to myself going, that's how easily done it is. So if you're thinking of doing it tonight, whether it's a lasting power of attorney or a will, please do it tonight. Because tomorrow life will just get in the way again.
Yeah, and though you might think, perhaps you're thinking if it was your husband or your wife or your partner, or it was your mum, your dad, everybody knows you've got their best interests at heart. So surely you could just step into their shoes, and if we look at the first lasting power of attorney, which is the financial side, surely if someone couldn't control their money and all the different things,
the partner could step in.
If you were a loved one, you could just step in and sort everything out, but you can't, can you?
No, unfortunately not. It's, if you're trying to access a bank account, for example, you can't just go into a bank and request access to a loved one's bank account.
You can't when someone's well, can you? So
no, you can't. No, it's only the lasting power of attorney that you'll be able to do that, especially when somebody loses capacity. They then become a vulnerable person, so there's almost a little bit more protection there for them.
Yeah, of course, it makes sense, doesn't it, when you explain it like that. When it comes to lasting power of attorney, there's two different types. There's the property and affairs, which is more financial. So we'll show you a list of some of the things that you'll be able to do, but I want you to look at what it says at the bottom first of all. Essentially, you choose someone you trust to manage your affairs, and in the eyes of the institutions and companies that they deal with, they become you.
So someone that you trust to look after your money, that will look after you, which will make sure you're okay. If you needed to sell the house, perhaps to go into a home, that they would do that with your best interests at heart. And again, you'd think you could do that, but you truly can't. When you really think about it seriously, you truly couldn't do any of these things and so much more unless you've got lasting power of attorney. Yeah,
that's right. I mean, it even comes down to those small things that they won't cross your mind, because we do them every single day and they become automatic. They're not things we think, we must be really conscious of this. So, for example, down to your food shop, we do that every single week. But if you can't access your bank account, how are you going to
buy the food?
No, exactly, and that's what makes it tricky.
Paying bills,
paying
like
the
that.
gardener, or
and even if you've got a joint
account,
you might be thinking, oh well, it's okay, we've got a joint account, so I'll still have access.
Yeah, but
no. Legally, because
no, you both have to have capacity.
It's no longer operating jointly, unfortunately, because one of you is incapacitated. So the light bulb moment for a lot of people, if they're lucky enough to think about it whilst they've got capacity so they can do something about it, is what we've just talked about. Ask yourself this question: could you walk into any company or institution that your partner or your spouse is the account holder and do anything with that company? And we all know we can't. The only way to do that is to lie, is to then commit fraud and pretend that you're someone that you're not. That's not going to get you very far, unfortunately. And certainly when it comes to the monetary side, just walking into bank or trying to access a bank account that isn't your bank account, we'd all be furious if someone could do that today while we had capacity.
Yeah, of course.
And of course, if we've lost capacity, we become even more protected. So the only way that you can give someone the authority to do that, if you can't do it for yourself, is through a lasting power of attorney. You're actually called a donor, so you're donating your power, you're donating your voice. So if I name both of you as my attorneys, you can speak for me. And there's no ambiguity there, because whilst I had capacity, I completed a form that said, these are the people I trust to make decisions on my behalf if I find myself in a position where I can't. It really is that powerful. And without it, you can find yourself well, not yourself, but your loved ones in quite a bit of trouble and expense, unfortunately.
I love what you always say about it's a document that you want to have but never have to use.
Yeah, it's a what if. We insure things naturally that sometimes tangible things. I'm sure if you looked at your bank account now, you'd see, what's that insurance policy for? And we forget to look after ourselves. So to be really clear, a lasting power of attorney obviously isn't an insurance policy. I will call it a what if document for the reason you just said, Sean, which is, it's a document. My wife and I have had these documents for 15, 16 years now, and obviously we hope that we never need to use them, but they're there if we do. So that's it. We did them all that time ago. We don't need to worry about it now. It's the what if. So you want to put these documents in place and hope your family never need to use them, because we spend money on things like boiler insurance. We'll certainly insure our pets, although quite often pets are more important than children. You know, and things that we can hold, you know, our tablets and things like that.
My mum insured her dishwasher.
That's right, yeah.
For years.
Yeah.
She's like, hey, do you think I should stop paying this? I was like, what's that? She said, the dishwasher. She uses it once a week because it's the big family dishwasher. And I'm like, oh, yes, you could have bought 300 dishwashers if you think about what you spent over all those years. We do insure, and it's not an insurance, but when we did Mums, and it was honestly, Simpler Law made it so easy. It's a sit-down conversation. Don't think you need to know anything. They've got the questions, and you have got the answers. It was just such a weight off our shoulders.
Yeah.
And the only time I think about it, it's put away, it's done, is when we do the show. But it's there if we ever need it.
To be really clear, obviously I'm not advocating cancelling any other insurances,
No.
but there is an irony when you speak to people and you ask, you know, what sort of things they protect, and we always protect what we can see, and we forget to protect ourselves, because a lasting power of attorney is going to protect you. It makes it so much easier for your family. It doesn't make what they're going through and what you're going through any easier, because, you know, if you are trying to care for someone with dementia, it's a horrific thing to be going through, but it can be made worse if your energy isn't just devoted to looking after your loved one, but trying to deal with other institutions or the court processes I'm sure we're going to talk about, because you haven't got the authority to help. So it really is a selfless thing. But at the same time, you know that it's the people that you've chosen that are going to be stepping into your shoes. So don't leave it to chance, because it can get really messy and really expensive really quickly.
Now, there are two different types, aren't there?
Yeah.
So we've talked about the financial one, if you like. There's also health and welfare. And I know you thought this was just
we
as
only
important.
knew about the financial side of it, and we went to Simpler Law way before they worked with us here on Shop on TV for my mum. And when we sat down and chatted, because, you know, they know so much more, and they meant that, well, there's a health and welfare, and we're like, and for me, I was like, oh gosh, Mum, this is more important, or it's just as important as the financial side. This is really personal things, isn't it? That if a loved one is extremely poorly, you'd want these things to be in control of these things.
Well, exactly. It comes down to medical care, doesn't it? And it's essential. It's things that we all experience, you know, at any point in life. But it's good because this document, it deals with, you know, it can help you deal with things such as hospitals, which can be extremely tricky if you don't have this document in place. Dealing with the doctor, you know, discussing things, your care, medications on your behalf. You know, even coming down to, say, for example, if you do have to go into a care home, you know, arranging your daily routine, you know, what you wear, down to what you eat, you know, just down to those little things, like the little guilty pleasures that we have in life,
so
which everybody
important
has.
when they're taken away.
Well, exactly, and they're just the little things that when they are taken away, it can have a huge impact on you. So again, it just allows you to have that sense of normality, I suppose, and it retains that voice, even though you have donated it. In a way, it allows you to retain it.
It allows you still to speak in a way, doesn't it?
To be still be you. And if they're not in place, remember, you have to then apply to the court protection, and the costs of the court protection can run into thousands of pounds at your cost.
And you're trying to sort all of this out whilst really all you want to do is be and look after your loved one, and it can take such a long time. I mean, there's so many stories that when people that have had to go down that route because they didn't have lasting power of attorney. The person they loved has actually passed before it's actually sorted out. It's
still taking anywhere up to a year for the applications to be granted. It's just the backlog at the court, sadly. And, you know, the expense as well that you've got to find up front is if you do it yourself. And a lot of people, when they start trying to do the court process, find that they need professional help as well. And so if they go for professional help, they've got the professional fees on top of that. So it's not unusual for us to hear stories where someone might say, oh, I've got power of attorney over my mom, and it costs £4,000 or £5,000. You're thinking, how did it cost £4,000 or £5,000? But then you realise, oh, it isn't a power of attorney. They've had to do the court of protection route. just the application fee alone is over £400 with the court of protection.
Well, we're going to see that, and this is money that you personally need to find, because obviously your loved one, you can't control their money.
Yeah.
And already, and this could be just the start of what you spend.
Yeah, and I think the interesting thing as well, something that's worth mentioning, is as the person that's incapacitated, by definition, you're not aware of what's going on. You've then got to hope that the person that goes to the court of protection and is prepared to pay these fees is someone you would have chosen.
Someone you trust.
Is someone you would have chosen for yourself.
Yeah.
And if it is, that person then still, as you can see from there, has to find £1,100 if they do it themselves. Now, if you've ever seen a court of protection application, you'll soon realise why people then seek professional help as well to go through the court process, because applications can get rejected, it can get bounced back. So this, where your energy should be going towards your loved one, it's dealing with this legal process. And it's all avoidable. All those fees are avoidable. All that time is avoidable, because with the lasting power of attorney, you made a clear statement when you had capacity that this person or these people are the people that I want to step into my shoes if I lose capacity. That document then gets registered with something called the Office of the Public Guardian. There is a small additional registration fee that they may charge depending on your circumstances, the person that's incapacitated, but the most that will be is 92, not the 1,100 we've just seen. But once that's registered with the Office of Public Guardian, your attorneys can then step into your shoes, and basically your voice continues with them. Your financial matters continue as if it was you dealing with them. And I think what you said here is absolutely right. The health and welfare is as important as the finance, because I think if you find yourself in a position where you're incapacitated, and I don't want to be flippant, you probably could care less about the money taking care of itself and more about how am I being cared for at that point. But of course, both need to happen, and they can only happen if you've got them in place.
Yeah, we had a neighbour and her husband went into hospital, and they weren't going to let him home. And they said, no, he needs to go into a care home. And she wanted to look after him at home. And luckily, she had lasting power of attorney. However, there's so many stories where in that situation, they haven't had lasting power, and they've had to fight to get a husband home. It sounds ridiculous, doesn't it? But if someone can't actually speak for themselves, they don't know if you're the right person to look after them. Honestly, lasting power of attorney is just as important as a will. And I think sometimes you only hear the name when you've heard of somebody else's story and it was that too late situation. And don't let it be too late for you, and it's never too early to get that lasting power of attorney into place. You've got great prices on everything, so please do make sure you secure those prices today. We are going to jump back to the wills because sadly we're coming towards the end of the show, but not the end of the actual deals we've got. Those deals are available for 3 working days. However, make sure you secure that price tonight, because those 3 days will disappear in an instant, won't they? And all of a sudden you'll think, oh gosh, I've missed out on that price. So let's get back to the will, because lasting power of attorney, I think, is just as important as a will. But obviously a will, everybody, Ian, everybody needs, don't they? Well, actually, everybody has got a will, even if they haven't written
We're very lucky in the UK that the government has prepared one for us if we've not prepared one for ourselves. But look, that isn't a criticism of the government or the legislation, because logically there needs to be a default position.
Something's got to be there.
Yeah.
Otherwise it literally would be anarchy, wouldn't it? Because how would anything ever get resolved? What rules would you follow? So effectively there are two ways you can pass away in the UK. You pass away with your own will. So it's yours, it knows about you, it knows about your family, and it's your wishes, it's your last act on planet Earth. Or if you choose not to make a will, then you're effectively saying, I will let my estate, everything I've worked hard for, be distributed according to a set of rules that is actually going to celebrate its 101st birthday this year. So society was very, very different when it was first developed. Yeah.
We've popped up on the screen the rules of intestacy, what we call the government will. It is just a series of yes/no questions, isn't it?
It is. I mean, that's a slight oversimplification, but that's exactly what it is. I mean, the first question it asks of the person that's passed away, as you can see right at the top there, is, are you married or in a civil partnership? And by you, it's talking about the person that's passed away.
Yeah.
So are you married in a civil partnership? It doesn't say, are you common law husband and wife? Because there is no such thing. Are you loved up?
How long have you been together? That's
Yeah.
it. Do you really
Doesn't
love each
care.
other?
And interestingly, you know, you could have people who have been separated for a number of years and don't even feel or see themselves as married, but if they've never got divorced, have a guess what?
Oh,
They're still married.
In the eyes of the law.
Exactly. So you are either married or in a civil partnership, or you're not. Hence, the only options to these questions are yes or no. And each answer takes you to another question until it takes you to a destination. And that's how the rules of intestacy work for everybody. But you throw into that something out of the ordinary, and by out of the ordinary, I mean the ordinary today.
Yeah.
It's not unusual for us to help families that are on a second relationship, maybe even a third relationship. And it's not unusual if Mr. has a child from a previous relationship, Mrs. has a child from a previous relationship, they might even have a child together. That's not unusual, that's a blended family. The rules of intestacy hates that because it only follows bloodlines. So then it becomes a lottery as to whichever parent passes away first, their children aren't going to be inheriting because it moves to the surviving spouse, and then when they pass away, it passes down their bloodline to the exclusion of the children to the first person that died.
I don't think people would know that, though, would they?
No, and sometimes when you explain this to people, they're going, no, that can't be right, because they don't want to believe that's the situation. And of course we do these shows because we want people to make a will, and of course we want it to be done professionally, and we want you to use us. But underpinning all of that is that's because we don't want you to die intestate, because the government will does not care about you. It's a default position. And if you're not aware of it and you think everything's going to be okay, I would just ask yourself to think who told you everything was going to be okay. Why do you think that? And test that, because what you don't want to do, or more to the point, what your family don't want to do, is find out that it isn't okay when it's too late. So you could do something really amazing, really simple tonight, and that's just text the word will to 66777, and that small little thing will be one of the greatest things that you did for yourself and your family. No one thinks that a will's brilliant and amazing and a sexy thing to buy, but I promise you it's one of the best things that you can do for your family, because it means that your last act on planet Earth is going to be yours, and it means that your family don't have to worry about what it is that you wanted to happen, because you made it happen by making a will.
And you might have told your family what you want to happen, and you might think, well, it'll be okay, because they all know. They know exactly what we want. Perhaps you've even written it on a piece of paper. But the sad thing is, unless you've got a legally binding will with a wet signature that's all been done correctly, that's taken completely out of everybody's hands, isn't it?
Yeah, there's either a legally binding document in place or not. And, you know, sadly we do here. It's often the eldest child. Our John knows what to do. Our John can take care of everything, and I'm not being I'm not being dismissive of that. But then when John's like, okay, so Mom said that this is what needs to happen, then oh, actually she's died intestate, but she made it clear that she didn't want anything to go to our Josie because of how vile Josie was 10 years ago, and because she stole all that money, or whatever the family dynamic might be. No, Josie's got a legitimate access to an equal share of everything. And so the only way to make sure that what you want to happen is to create your own will. Every will we write is bespoke, because it's yours. The rules of intestacy is identical, ask the same questions of everybody. The only thing that's different is the outcome depending on the makeup of your family. But either way, it doesn't care about you, it just cares about distributing your estate. You don't want to die default, you want to pass away with your last act and your last gift to your family being your will. And
it's not just money, there's so much you can do with a will. You might be at home thinking, well, I haven't got anything, so that, you know, my bank account's quite dry.
It's not just about money, is it?
But no, and you've probably got a house, or you might have a car, or you might be rings, it might be something sentimental. It may be the children, actually, which I think a lot of people wouldn't think about.
No, not at all.
Putting my children in the will, but actually awfully, if you're in that horrible situation where both parents pass, you can actually put into your will who you would like to look after them.
Yeah, you can specify who you would like to look after them, and I think that would be very important to any parent. You know, they would want to make sure their children are looked after and very well cared for as well, and you can actually give that parental responsibility.
And that could stop a family upset, because perhaps both grandparents or both sisters or everybody steps forward, and then who is the right person, whereas as a parent you'd know who was the right person.
Yeah, because in the worst case, and thankfully it's quite rare, but in the worst case scenarios where that's not resolved because there's been no will, the children can be made a ward of court. So at an awful time,
With
they
all that going on.
end up in the care system rather than with a loved one. And I think if you put most parents to task and said, I know it's an awful thing to think about, but if you weren't here yesterday, where would you want your kids? There'd be someone flickering in the mind going, well, it'll either be between this person, that person, or in mine and my wife's case, we know exactly where we'd want our boys to go. And guess what's in our will? A guardianship clause leaving our parental responsibility to those people.
And your children might be your pets. It might be who you want to look after the pets, or perhaps you want to make sure the person you're giving your dog or cat to, that you're going to give them some money to feed and look at, and you can do all of that in a will. The age children inherit as well. You perhaps don't want them to have everything at 18. You can split that cost.
It might be an heirloom that you want to pass down the family line. It might be a charitable donation. Remember the offers that we've got for you, the deals from Simpler Law, everything coming with an extra 20% discount. That extra 20% discount, though, only for the next 3 working days.
Yeah, so do it right now. So if you want the will, it should be £249. Our regular deal, when we have a special offer, is £124, but you have got an extra 20% off, so £99. And that goes to 4 payments, interest-free, £24.75, making it so affordable. Lasting power of attorney should be £350, practically £349. When we have a show offer, it's usually £239, but you've got an extra 20% off for the next 3 working days, so £189. You're saving £160 there. When you split that cost, £47.25 is the first of those 4 payments. And then if you decide, and as long as you secure the deals, you can then decide which offer you're going to go for. If you decide to do the will and lasting power of attorney, we know people that it's cost them thousands to do that. Should normally be $598. It's $315 as our regular show special. It's down at the minute to £249 because you have got that extra 20% and split that cost to £62.25. So get in contact now to secure the deals, but also to make sure you get that great book that holds vital information for your loved ones.
Yeah, do it right now. The first 250 clients will get that What My Family Should Know book. simplerlaw.co.uk/shop on TV. You can call the call centre if you're quick, 0333 600 2600, or you can text, and that's always the most popular. Text the word WILL, WILL, to 66777, whichever offer you want to go for.
And do it now, because it's often that first step that we just keep putting off, and it's done. And you've secured all those prices, and you can sort out a time that's convenient for you to sit down with the fabulous team we've got to thank for this evening.
Yes, big thank you to Georgia and to Ian for joining us as always.
Thank you.
Lovely to see you. We'll see you again very soon. Remember to take advantage of those offers right now, though. We don't want you to miss out on those prices. An extra 20% off across the board. So now's the time to do it.
Yeah, what you want to happen is going to happen if you've written that legally binding will, so get it done. See you soon.